Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651 Transformers First Battle. Bumblebee appeared, and he rushed towards the black robot immediately. At this moment, Qianxia finally had time to see who the robot was. It's roadblock among the Decepticons, a guy disguised as a police car, Qianxia said, and began to walk quickly towards the bunker next to him. It was too dangerous to stay on the roadside when two robots were fighting. "Are you okay?" a voice came, and Sam, who had turned around and was about to leave, ran back at this moment, and came to help as soon as he came back. Sure enough, the protagonist is the protagonist, and his luck and original personality will eventually make him involved in the fight between Transformers. "It's okay, I won't die," Qianxia said, and at this moment he was leaning against the wall, watching the two Transformers fighting fiercely. "Boy, if you don't run away, why do you come back?" Agent Simon looked at Sam and asked directly. "I just saw the shell exploded, and I thought of coming back to help," Sam replied. "Good boy, you are really good," Agent Simon said, and then he came to Qianxia's side, leaning over with him to look at the battle outside. "How about it? Which of these two Transformers is bad?" Agent Simon asked. Although he already knew that there were Autobots and Decepticons, he didn't know which Autobots and Decepticons were. Remember, as long as the colors are brighter, they are most likely Autobots, and the colors tend to be monotonous black and gray, they are Decepticons. Of course, this is just a general situation. It depends on the mark engraved on them, Qianxia said, pointing to the Autobot mark on Bumblebee. Agent Simon looked carefully and found that there was indeed a mark on the bodies of the two Transformers, and the patterns of the marks were different from each other. "Agent Simon, the Special Forces have entered the designated position and can launch an attack at any time," a voice came from Agent Simon's waist. The communicator he wore there was always in the open state. Just in time, Agent Simon quickly took out the communicator and shouted at it. "Concentrate firepower and attack that big black guy." "That's the Decepticon, our enemy," Agent Simon said, and the next moment, two helicopters appeared, and a large number of black jeeps were approaching quickly in the distance. Bang, bang, bang. From the helicopter, several shells were fired directly and hit the Decepticon. The Decepticons' weapons are more advanced than those of humans, but their metal shells are not indestructible. Missile weapons, high-heat armor-piercing shells, etc. can destroy their defenses. Therefore, the shells fired from the helicopter at this moment are also extremely destructive to the roadblock. In addition, there is Bumblebee in front of the roadblock. When he was hit by the helicopter's firepower, Bumblebee immediately finished it off. So, this Decepticon, who was beaten several times but not killed in the movie, was killed directly as soon as he appeared. Killed by a few shells from humans and the finishing blow from Bumblebee. "This situation is better than we expected." Qianxia came out and walked directly to Bumblebee's side. Behind Qianxia, Agent Simon and others followed. "Sir, it's broad daylight now. Many people around have noticed the situation here. We must evacuate as soon as possible." A large number of agents came out of those black jeeps, and they urgently reported the situation to Qianxia. "Okay, clean up the scene immediately. Take away all the relevant people, and make sure those who know the situation remain silent," Qianxia said, and after hearing his order, the agents immediately began to operate. Everyone around dispersed and took away all the people who witnessed this nearby. What method they used to keep those people silent was not Qianxia's concern. At the same time, the bodies of the roadblocks began to be processed by the specialized agency of District 7, and Bumblebee also turned directly into a car at this time. It did not leave, because the glasses were now in Qianxia's hands. As a guardian, the most important thing he needed to do was to protect the safety of the glasses' owner. However, it was supposed to belong to Sandwich, but now it has become Qianxia. The most important thing is that this is clearly a group of people from a special organization, and they are likely to be officials among humans. It is probably not appropriate for them, the Autobots, to be directly involved with the officials. "Bumblebee, your name is Bumblebee, right?" Qianxia came to Bumblebee and asked directly. "How do I know your name?" "Of course you told me yourself," Qianxia said. It seemed that he was the only one talking, but when Bumblebee was looking for relevant voices through his radio system, Xianxia already knew it. I know that your sound system was damaged during the war, so you can't speak in a normal way, but you are not restricted with me, and the frequency you dial can be clearly captured by me. After Xianxia said this, Bumblebee was shocked. An ordinary human being could actually capture the frequency he dialed. This ability to read information is probably stronger than all Transformers. Actually, I have the ability to help you fix your voice system, but I don't know if you are willing to let me do it. Who is Xianxia? He is the child of the god of chaos, who controls the most famous celestial computer clock of the super god. He has learned the most systematic and profound scientific knowledge of the entire Super God Academy since he was a child. If Xianxia wants, he can directly create a race of Transformers. It is naturally easy for him to repair a voice system for Bumblebee. If I can repair it, I am naturally willing to repair it. Bumblebee described this passage through the broadcasting system. Okay, I will fix it for you when we return to the base, Xianxia said, and then sat directly in the car. Agent Simon, Tom, and Sam all got in at this time. Originally, seeing Sam also got in the car, Agent Simon wanted to say something. But seeing that Xianxia did not mean to drive him away, he did not say anything more. After all, this person was supposed to contact the Autobots and then become the agent chosen by the Autobots. Now Xianxia has replaced Sam, but if Sam still wants to get involved, as long as Xianxia doesn't care, Agent Simon will naturally not bother to care. Chapter 652 The Actual Controller. The troops quickly returned to the base of District 7, and Sam's situation had been contacted with his parents through an official channel. As for the specific excuse, the agents of District 7 would definitely be able to handle it with ease based on their work characteristics. So, you want to buy my glasses because the coordinates of this place are hidden in them? Sam asked. At this moment, he was shocked by the huge dam project in front of him. To be precise, it is to prevent the Decepticons from finding the things hidden inside through the coordinates, Agent Simon explained. Things hidden here? What is hidden here? Sam was like a curious baby at this moment. He wanted to know all the situations here. You will know immediately if you go in, Xianxia said, and without paying attention to Sam's reaction, he took Bumblebee directly into District 7. When they entered, the first thing they saw was a huge robot. It was covered with frost and was frozen on a platform. There were people around who were constantly replenishing ice on the robot or testing the temperature of the robot. These people are maintaining the status of the robot. Only by ensuring that the robot can always stay within a specific range can they ensure that the robot will not come back to life. If such a huge monster comes back to life, it will be a huge loss for them. Moreover, it will also make them lose the best research object. Over the years, their District 7 has brought great help to the technological innovation of the human world through reverse engineering research on this robot. Megatron, Bumblebee directly switched his form and turned from a car into a robot. The moment he turned into a robot, many staff members around him looked at him in surprise and fear. But they soon noticed that the head of District 7 was rushing towards this side, and Simon, a senior agent, was standing next to the Autobot at this moment. Thinking of the fact that their District 7 had specially sent out a Special Forces unit, they knew that this robot should have been found today and should belong to their side, or at least it had been controlled. Mr. Li, the head of District 7, came directly to the front of the scout and called him enthusiastically. Is there any latest news from the place I asked you to pay attention to? Xianxia asked. Although he was very young and looked only about 17 or 18 years old, actually only 17 years old, he showed a dignified attitude when facing such a powerful person as the district chief of District 7. Although Xianxia was young, he was the young master of at least 50 life planets from the moment he was born. After Xianxia established a super god civilization and eventually created a huge empire that had a very high status in the infinite multiverse and was even more powerful than the Cosmic Observer cult, Xianxia became a true prince. Therefore, the power held by Xianxia and the environment he had been in had already made him naturally confident when dealing with these ordinary people, and even had a sense of superiority. According to the latest news from the Ministry of National Defense, one of our military bases was attacked, all the personnel there have been sacrificed, and all the facilities have been destroyed, the district chief replied. No, they should not have been killed. Have you sent someone to confirm it in person? Xianxia asked. He was eyeing those special forces and was going to form an organization specifically targeting the Decepticons with them in the future. The Ministry of Defense responded that there are no survivors, but I have sent someone to search for them, but no news has been received yet. The district chief dared not hesitate on this matter. He would do what Xianxia told him to do without any hesitation, even if there was no basis for it. Okay, remember to have the searchers bring high-heat armor-piercing bullets. Currently, this is the best weapon to deal with the Decepticons in your weapon system, Xianxia said. According to your instructions, all the troops in District 7 have replaced the relevant weapons, and the missiles have also changed their operating systems as much as possible, and the conventional intelligent tracking mode has been lifted. The district chief's answer made Xianxia very satisfied. Only when the military has made all the preventive preparations can they be more relaxed when facing the Decepticons. Bumblebee, get ready and send a signal to Optimus Prime and the others to let them come over. It won't be long before we have to go to war with the Decepticons. At that time, it may not be easy to deal with the Decepticons with only the weapons configuration on Earth. Xianxia turned his head and looked at Bumblebee and said, "Why do you know so much about our intelligence?" Bumblebee asked. From the sudden appearance of Xianxia to buy the glasses from Sam to everything that happened now, it seemed that Xianxia had planned it long ago. How I got the intelligence? You don't have to think about it. You can't know the answer, but I can tell you accurately that I am definitely not your Autobots' enemy. On the contrary, I am your Autobots' helper, Xianxia said. He came here purely from a God's perspective, and he had a great liking for the Autobots. The Autobots that his father admired were further magnified by Xianxia, and became liked and favored. Perhaps this can also be regarded as a kind of love for the whole family. Because of Li Qingyun's love for the father, it became even more serious when it came to Xianxia, the son. Oh, Bumblebee just responded perfunctorily. But even if this matter was brought to Optimus Prime, I think he would not pursue it too much. After all, the main purpose of the Autobots' trip to Earth this time was to find the Rubik's Cube, and then find a way to destroy it, so as to stop the Decepticons from using the Rubik's Cube to transform Earth's technology. As long as they can accomplish all this in the end, even if all of them Autobots are sacrificed in the end, it is acceptable. Autobots are never afraid of sacrifice. Let's go to the Cosmic Cube and see how powerful the treasure of District 7 is, Xianxia said, and then turned and walked deeper into the secret base. He didn't go there the last time he came, and this time he brought Bumblebee with him, so they could go and take a look together. The district chief of District 7 saw Xianxia's actions and looked at Bumblebee with some caution. But in the end he still followed him. Chapter 653 Rubik's Cube. Xianxia and the others soon entered the deepest part of the underground. Here, in a hall of the same size, there was a huge cube-shaped Rubik's Cube. This cube was what the Autobots called the Rubik's Cube. It was the energy source used by the Autobots and all the Transformers, and it was the supply warehouse for their Transformers. Unfortunately, this supply source was lost a long time ago, so that it is now difficult for Cybertron to maintain the birth of newborns, and the entire civilization has lost its original vitality. The Rubik's Cube. Bumblebee stood up and looked at the huge cube in front of him. This Rubik's Cube contains stellar energy, and it also contains the equation for the evolution of mechanical life forms. It is an extremely advanced algorithm. Xianxia was also looking at the Rubik's Cube, and through the eye of insight, he could see more things hidden in the Rubik's Cube. Some things that even Bumblebee, a Transformer, could not see. We have studied this Rubik's Cube for a long time, but from the current point of view, it seems to have no other function except transforming machinery into fierce robots. The district chief said that he actually wanted Xianxia to help him think of a way to see if he could use the knowledge in his hands to apply the energy of this Rubik's Cube. I know, you want me to help you, but if that happens, the entire pattern of the Earth will change. Maybe the Earth will lead to a premature technological revolution, which may not be a good thing for the future development of mankind. Xianxia did not do what the district chief wanted. He can indeed modify the algorithm on the Rubik's Cube to make the Transformers created by the energy it generates more inclined to the Autobots. However, the mechanical life forms created by the Rubik's Cube all have independent consciousness. Even if they are inclined to the Autobots, they cannot stand on the side of humans after they are created, let alone directly obey humans. A group of uncontrollable robots born on the Earth will eventually directly trigger a robot riot and turn the entire Earth into a second Cybertron. No one can say for sure. Therefore, Xianxia will never let the power of the Rubik's Cube be used by humans on Earth. Okay, the district chief heard Xianxia say this and couldn't insist. If this technology was in the hands of some ordinary people, With a consistent character of their country, they would definitely ask Xianxia to do so even if Xianxia didn't want to. But Xianxia is not an ordinary person. He is a person who can crush and play with Megatron at will. Therefore, when facing Xianxia, he must show enough respect. No matter what Xianxia says, he will do it. The Rubik's Cube, staying here, will be very dangerous, Bumblebee said. His purpose of coming to Earth was to find the Rubik's Cube, or at least to know the clues of the Rubik's Cube. Now that the Rubik's Cube is in front of him, he naturally has to find a way to protect the Rubik's Cube more comprehensively. If the Decepticons know that the Rubik's Cube is here, they will definitely come here to attack, but the problem now is that we can't move it. The district chief looked at Bumblebee and said. Bumblebee understood what the district chief meant, and immediately walked forward, walked directly to a support platform, and stood under the Rubik's Cube. Then, he touched the Rubik's Cube with his fingers a few times. And then the entire Rubik's Cube began to change, and its size was shrinking rapidly. The huge Rubik's Cube, which was originally hundreds of meters long and wide, was shrinking at a very fast speed at this moment, and finally became only 20 to 30 centimeters, just like an ordinary wooden box. Not only did it become smaller, but it also became lighter. You can actually do this, Agent Simon blurted out subconsciously, because in his opinion, this was similar to the ability that Xianxia had shown before, which was to shrink Megatron. Xianxia coughed twice to remind Agent Simon. When Simon heard Xianxia's cough, he realized that he had said the wrong thing, and quickly took 2 steps back, embarrassed and a little at a loss. The Rubik's Cube is the most magical. It contains unparalleled power, Bumblebee answered. Indeed, it is difficult to find anything similar to it in the entire universe, as it can reduce both its volume and weight. Xianxia was actually quite surprised by this feature of the Rubik's Cube. Generally speaking, the ability to make an object smaller is easy to do in the Marvel Universe, and anyone who has been exposed to the subject of Pym particles in the Super Seminary can do it. But in the research of the Super Seminary, Pym particles belong to a special attribute ability. When he shrinks an object, its entirety is already hidden in a special space, so the mass will appear very light. At this time, the Rubik's Cube, it is not shrunk by Pym particles, but it can still achieve the same effect as Pym particles. This has shown that at least in this Rubik's Cube, there is a special energy space hidden, otherwise it would not be possible to reduce its mass. But you came here this time, actually intending to destroy this Rubik's Cube, right? Xianxia looked at Bumblebee and asked. Yes, Bumblebee did not deny this. Optimus Prime did say that if necessary, he could even put the Rubik's Cube into his chest and then destroy it. This is all to protect the humans on Earth, to prevent the Decepticons from continuing to wantonly tyrannically conquer the entire universe. Such a powerful thing, just destroy it like this. Simon couldn't help it again. This is something that can directly transform machinery into robots. This is a powerful force that can bring new changes to technology. It would be a pity to destroy it like this. It's better to destroy it than to keep it, Xianxia said. Okay, Simon was hesitant in his heart, but he was still willing to believe what Xianxia said. Now, the most urgent thing, is to think about where to put it, to preserve it, Bumblebee reminded. Leave it here, Xianxia said. The Decepticons don't know that the Rubik's Cube is here, and the original facilities here are prepared to prevent its energy leakage. So, if it is left here, the outside world will not be able to detect its existence, and the Decepticons will not be able to find it in a short time, but once it leaves this base, its energy will leak out, and the Decepticons will directly lock on to it, and then they will definitely swarm in. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654, Genius Emerges from Youth. Xianxia's words were recognized by everyone. It would be the most dangerous for the cube to leave the base now. Therefore, they decided to leave the cube in the base for the time being, and Bumblebee went outside the base at night and sent a signal to the space to let Optimus Prime and others come. At the same time, the military also began to dispatch troops and sent some elite troops and powerful firepower to the base. However, these actions of the military also attracted the attention of the Decepticons. Those guys who were hiding in the dark and watching covetously also noticed the abnormal situation of the military. Xianxia shut down the global communication network, and the big clock and his own perception of the outside world were blocked, so he didn't know the dynamics of the Decepticons. But Xianxia understood that as long as they took action, the Decepticons would definitely notice it, and the war would start sooner or later. The key question was whether it would start early or late. I have sent the message out, and at the latest tomorrow, they should arrive. Bumblebee came to Xianxia and said, "You keep using this light wave, and this way of speaking, don't you feel troublesome?" Xianxia looked at Bumblebee and said, "Don't you think this is cool? This is a complete sentence. Words like this are often said on the radio, so you can find them directly without splicing. Whatever you want, it's the same anyway." Xianxia didn't comment. "It's just a way of speaking, the effect is the same no matter what you use, there's no need to pay too much attention. This starry sky is so beautiful." Xianxia looked up and looked at the vast starry sky. In the past, he traveled through the universe all day long, but he never thought that the starry sky was special. But now, far away from home, coming to this place completely isolated from home, without the company of brothers and sisters, he finally felt that this starry sky looked a little different. The vast galaxy, the infinite universe, is always so fascinating. Bumblebee also sighed. The next day at noon, "We have found the survivors of the rehearsal base. They have also contacted the Ministry of National Defense. Now the Ministry of National Defense has begun to connect with us and decided to directly join our defense team in District 7. The head of District 7 hurriedly found Xianxia and reported the latest situation. "If the Ministry of National Defense joins, the possibility of intelligence leakage will increase significantly. We must take precautions in advance. Xianxia doesn't mind how many people join in, but at this stage they can't let the magic cube spread in District 7. If the news leaks too early, they will not be able to take timely precautions, and it will become more difficult to protect the magic cube. I know, so I didn't tell them the exact address of District 7 before, but just said that I would go to the Ministry of National Defense to contact them," the district head replied. "In addition, I hope you can go with me." The head of District 7 wanted Xianxia to communicate more with those guys in the Ministry of National Defense, because he knew that District 7 would be abolished sooner or later. Transformers exist in secret, so District 7 exists. Now that Transformers are about to be exposed to more people, District 7 is obviously unable to take on this job and needs to be handed over to a larger organization. After the disbandment of District 7, the relevant work will probably be directly taken over by the Ministry of National Defense and the military. Therefore, it is appropriate to let Xianxia communicate with the people of the Ministry of National Defense now. Okay, Xianxia did not refuse. "Well, let's go now," the head of District 7 said, and then turned to walk out of the base. However, Xianxia turned back to look at Bumblebee at this moment. "During the time I'm away, the magic cube can only be kept by you. If any special situation occurs, you must transfer the magic cube out as soon as possible." "Don't worry," Bumblebee replied. "Very good," Xianxia nodded, and then looked at Sam. "You have been in District 7 for a day. Do you want to go home with us first?" Xianxia looked at Sam. "This guy came with us yesterday. But he was just an ordinary person. He couldn't do anything in District 7. He was useless except for sightseeing everywhere." "Well, I should go back." Although Sam was reluctant, he also understood that he had no way to integrate into this group. He had no value here. "Then come with us," Xianxia said, and Sam could only look at Bumblebee and the frozen Megatron behind him reluctantly. They took a helicopter and left the Khufu Dam directly. After that, they went directly to the Ministry of Defense to contact the Minister of Defense and other senior military officials. During this period, Sam was naturally arranged to go home, but it was not Xianxia who sent him personally, but the Ministry of Defense sent someone to send him back. Originally a protagonist, now he can only be reduced to such an ordinary tourist. I don't know if he can have any contact with Michelle in the end. It is estimated that it will be difficult to catch up with her. In the Ministry of Defense, Xianxia, led by the head of the 7th District, soon came to the Minister of Defense. "Are you from the 7th District?" The Minister of Defense looked at the new faces in front of him and asked directly. "Yes, I'm the head of District 7, Jack," the head of District 7 introduced himself. "What kind of organization is your District 7 originally? And why is there such a young child in your team?" The Minister of Defense was talking about Xianxia. Xianxia is only 17 years old now, so it's normal that some older people think he's still a child. Although Mr. Li is only 17 years old, his ability is better than everyone in District 7, so, you can't judge him by common sense, the head of District 7 hurriedly explained. Xianxia will be directly responsible for all matters related to Transformers in the future. If this leads to misunderstandings by the Minister of Defense and then Xianxia is questioned, it will be bad. That's right, I have a lot of young people here now, and the performance is also very outstanding, the Minister of Defense sighed. After their military base was attacked, their Ministry of Defense also recruited a large number of high school graduates to participate in the work of deciphering the other party's intrusion signals. And just now, one of the female students found out information that even their most advanced engineers didn't know. Originally, their Ministry of National Defense did not believe what the female student said, but at this moment, District 7 showed up. Chapter 655, Decepticon Action. Geniuses emerge young? This saying of the Orientals is very true, the Minister of Defense sighed. The current situation is a bit urgent. If possible, it is better to get to the point as soon as possible. Xianxia stood up and reminded the two people in front of him. You are right. At this time, we should really get to the point directly, the Minister of Defense said, but just as he was about to lead them to the conference room, a strange sound wave appeared in the Ministry of Defense. Then, all the instruments began to malfunction, and the entire Ministry of Defense was in chaos. It's the Decepticons, they have started to act, Xianxia said. At this time, the only ones who have the ability to make the Ministry of Defense's network fail at once are the Transformers. And it is obvious that the Autobots will definitely not do this, so the Decepticons must be the ones behind all these things. How can they act so quickly? The head of the 7th District was also shocked. Although they knew that the Decepticons would attack the Earth, they did not expect that the other party would act so quickly. They have just started to lay out, and the defense of the entire country has not yet started to operate. But the Decepticons have already started to operate first. The Decepticons must have been monitoring the global network system from the beginning. They must have known about our situation through the global network and knew that we had a way to deal with them, so they cut off our global network first. This is a conventional means to prepare for war. Xianxia didn't think there was anything wrong with the Decepticons doing this. He could only say that the person who planned the entire Decepticon action behind the scenes was very flexible. After all, ordinary people would not have such keen observation skills, let alone make such thoughtful arrangements at the first time. You mean, this is the aliens preparing to start a war? The Minister of Defense also heard the meaning of the conversation between Xianxia and District Chief Jack, and knew the real culprit behind all this. Yes, I'm afraid they are now speculating the exact whereabouts of the Rubik's Cube based on our previous troop movements, Xianxia replied. What should we do? The Rubik's Cube must not fall into the hands of those Decepticons. When he heard that the whereabouts of the Rubik's Cube might be known by the Decepticons, the District Chief of District 7 became a little anxious. Don't worry, they don't have the exact coordinates. If we only speculate based on the clues of the army's mobilization, we won't be able to know the exact location of the Rubik's Cube in a short time. Besides, Bumblebee is now in District 7. With him personally guarding the Rubik's Cube, even if the Decepticons really find out where the Rubik's Cube is, it will take some time to capture it, Xianxia said, and after hearing his answer, the District Chief of District 7 was relieved a little. We still can't be careless. What if the other party has guessed the exact coordinates of the Rubik's Cube through some other means and is on the way there? The Minister of Defense was still very cautious. Then start the action immediately, mobilize the troops, and then start to move the location of the Rubik's Cube. Xianxia followed the words of the Minister of Defense. Move the Rubik's Cube? Didn't you say that once the Rubik's Cube leaves the Khufu Dam, it will be immediately tracked by the Decepticons? The District Chief of District 7 asked in confusion. As a place to collect magic cubes, the Khufu Dam has very complete facilities, but it is a dam after all, and the reservoir it is connected to has reached a very terrifying scale after years of accumulation. If the two sides go to war there, and the entire dam is directly damaged and eventually destroyed, I am afraid that millions of civilians in the entire downstream will be drowned by the flood, Xianxia said, and his reminder made the head of the 7th District and the Minister of Defense both subconsciously silent. The impact of the Khufu Dam on civilians was forgotten by the top leaders of the two countries, but they didn't expect that Xianxia, a young man, had always been thinking about it. Okay, start mobilizing immediately, Xianxia reminded. Yes, I will give an order to the military and ask them to send a team to support your operation immediately. The Minister of Defense agreed, and then immediately turned around and walked forward to instruct his subordinates to start mobilizing troops from various military bases. Mr. Minister, I have another thing that needs your authorization immediately. The head of the 7th District quickly caught up with the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense was somewhat puzzled. At such a critical moment, the head of the 7th District still stopped him from doing what? Mr. Minister, I hope you can authorize Mr. Li to form a team to deal with the Decepticons in the future. Moreover, we also need the task force you just received today to make them the first batch of soldiers under Mr. Li, the head of the 7th District hurriedly explained. His words also made the face of the Minister of Defense change slightly. Such a matter of forming an army was actually proposed just like that, and it was handed over to such a young boy to form it. Mr. Li, this title seems to be the habit of that Oriental country. Wouldn't it be very unsafe for national defense to hand over the command of an army to an outsider? Mr. Minister, I have already consulted the President on this matter, and have obtained authorization. Now all I need is your consent. The head of the 7th District also understood what the Minister of Defense was thinking. In fact, the President had also raised similar questions at the time. However, how can this matter about Xianxia be judged based on his appearance and identity? Xianxia has the power to change the world. He is here just to help them and fight against the Decepticons. If we miss this boy, we may never find anyone more suitable than Xianxia to deal with the Decepticons. This matter is very important. I can't make a decision rashly. The Minister of Defense didn't agree directly. Take him down first and finish your war. If everything goes well, maybe everything will be fine. After the Minister of Defense finished speaking, he left without stopping. The head of the 7th District and Xianxia both understood what he meant by these words. He wanted Xianxia to win the war with the Decepticons first, and then decide whether to let Xianxia form his own army. Moreover, Xianxia and the head of the 7th District both knew that these were often empty words. Because everyone knows that people should be used forward and people should be used backward. When the war is over and Xianxia is no longer needed, how can they give away such power? Chapter 656 Optimus Prime arrives. Xianxia and the head of the 7th District soon began to return to the secret base of the 7th District. On the way, the head of the 7th District said helplessly, "I'm sorry, as a district head, I can't help you too much." The head of the 7th District really wanted to help Xianxia unconditionally, but as a small district head, he couldn't intervene too much in such matters. "It's okay, you have actually done enough." Xianxia naturally would not blame the head of the 7th District. Such things would develop like this no matter where they happened, because no one in power would hand over his power to a stranger for no reason. Speaking of which, it was also because Xianxia was a mixed-race child with both Eastern and Western blood in his body, so he was quite friendly to this Western country. Otherwise, if his father was here, he would probably not bother to pay attention to the situation here, and would directly take the magic box back to the Eastern country. After all, when Li Qingyun first went to the Marvel Universe, he did not choose to go to the Western country, but directly established a Super God Academy in the Eastern country. After that, the development of the entire Super God Academy also promoted the development of Eastern countries. Even one of the most powerful institutions in Western countries, S.H.I.E.L.D., was destroyed by Li Qingyun. People always get close to people who look and have similar blood to themselves. Li Qingyun is an Oriental, so he naturally gets close to Orientals. Xianxia is different. He is a mixed race of Eastern and Western people, so he treats Easterners and Westerners the same. However, in terms of cultural identity, he definitely leans towards the East. After all, Li Qingyun is his father, and his teacher Hizai is also an Oriental. As for his mother, although she looks like a Westerner, she is an Asgardian. If you really count, she is not from a Western country. Fortunately, the super god civilization had already developed into cosmic civilization after he was born. In his eyes, the difference between the countries on the planet is no difference, which led to the current situation. Well, the purpose of my coming here is to experience what it feels like to fight against the Decepticons as an ordinary person. Being embarrassed by others is also a problem that ordinary people will encounter, Xianxia said, and the meaning of his words was very clear, telling the head of the 7th District not to worry about this matter at all. Even if he did not get the support of the Ministry of Defense, he would not give up. This time, His purpose in coming to this world was to experience what it felt like to go to war with the Decepticons. So no matter what the circumstances, he would do it. "Look, the sky," the pilot of the helicopter in front directly reminded loudly. Xianxia and the head of the 7th district heard the driver's words and immediately leaned out to look at the sky. As they looked, several burning fireballs appeared at the horizon at this moment, flying towards them quickly. "It's Transformers, these should be Autobots." Xianxia looked at the fireballs and immediately recognized that they were Optimus Prime and others. "They will not destroy the facilities of the 7th district by falling from the sky like this," the head of the 7th district asked worriedly. "Don't worry, they must have calculated when they landed, and they shouldn't crash directly into the Khufu Dam," Xianxia said. The head of the 7th district was relieved when he heard his words, but he still couldn't be completely relieved, so he kept his eyes on the fireballs. In the end, all 4 fireballs fell down, and Optimus Prime, Jazz, Ironhide, and Ratchet, the 4 Autobots, landed a considerable distance outside the Khufu Dam, completely avoiding some key areas. The head of the 7th district also kept watching here, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. The helicopter also landed at this time. When Xianxia and the head of the 7th district came down, Agent Simon, Tom, and Bumblebee also came out. When they came over, outside the helicopter pad, 4 cars of different models had already driven towards this side. The leading one was a red truck head. "This is Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots and the only remaining veteran on Cybertron." Bumblebee. The Autobots came in front of Bumblebee and quickly changed into Transformers. Although all the people present had seen Transformers, they were still very shocked when they saw the 4 of them transforming together. The scene of a car suddenly transforming into a mighty and domineering robot is always shocking to ordinary people. "Okay, you know what state Bumblebee is in. Let me tell you if you have anything to say." Xianxia walked up and stood in front of Optimus Prime. "Who are you?" Optimus Prime looked at Xianxia and felt very unfamiliar with this young man. Before they entered the Earth, they were actually hiding in space outside the Earth, and learned about the situation on the Earth through the internet. And Sandwich was the person they paid the most attention to, because the Veitch family knew a lot about the Rubik's Cube and mutants. The most important thing was that during Optimus Prime's investigation, he found that Sandwich was actually a very good young man with leadership potential. So Bumblebee was sent out at the beginning to be Sandwich's guardian. But now, Sandwich has become someone else, and this boy who suddenly appeared is a mystery in Optimus Prime's eyes, a mystery that even he can't see clearly. "Li Xianxia, I am a senior agent of District 7, Xianxia casually said an identity, and this identity did not exist before, but District 7 would definitely recognize it immediately. "Agent? So, Mr. Agent, you contacted us, what exactly do you want to do?" Optimus Prime asked. "Of course, it is to find a way to stop the Decepticons from obtaining the Rubik's Cube," Xianxia answered very naturally. "How are you going to stop it?" Optimus Prime asked. He really wanted to know what kind of method these humans on Earth wanted to use to deal with the Decepticons. "With the current military strength of our Earth, if we go to war with the Decepticons head-on, even if we can win, we will pay a very painful price, so, we hope to join forces with you Autobots to deal with those executioners in the universe." Xianxia did not forcefully say that he could control everything, but spoke of the importance of the Autobots. "You want to rely on our strength?" Optimus Prime's face was obviously not very good. "It's just that when facing you Transformers, other internal disputes on Earth have nothing to do with you Autobots." Chapter 657, the villain dies because of his talkativeness, and the decent person is defeated by his kindness. "If we just fight the Decepticons together, we have no objection," Optimus agreed. Originally, their purpose of coming here was to stop the Decepticons from destroying the Earth. Now that the Earthlings have chosen to stand in the same camp with them, they are naturally willing. Moreover, Xianxia also said directly that they would be clear-cut with the Autobots in the future. They would only work together to fight the Decepticons, and would never let the Autobots get involved in the internal disputes of humans. This statement can be said to ensure the independence of the Autobots and avoid many unnecessary troubles that will occur in the process of getting along between the two sides in the future. "It's good that you agree." Xianxia was relieved to see that Optimus agreed. Because he forcibly replaced Sandwich's position, he was actually worried that Optimus would have a grudge and cause some conflicts between him and himself. But now it seems that the two sides are still peaceful, and the cooperation that should have been there is still the same as before. "What should we do now?" Those Decepticons are already ready to move, Jazz stepped forward and asked. Yes, the Decepticons are already taking action, and they will definitely find this place in a short time, Shiansha replied. Then move the cube immediately to a safer place, Optimus Prime said. Our plan is to move it, but once the cube leaves the underground of Sector 7, its energy will be immediately known to the Decepticons, and the war will start immediately, Agent Simon said. If we stay here, we may have more troubles, Optimus Prime said. Wait another 3 hours. The troops we have mobilized are already rushing here. They will all arrive here to join us in 3 hours at the latest, Shiansha said. In addition, there is another Decepticon in this base. Should we deal with him first? Shiansha was talking about Megatron. Megatron was now frozen and camped in Sector 7. Although he was still alive, he could not move at all. In other words, if we want to deal with Megatron, now is the best time. Megatron is very powerful, and conventional weapons may not be able to kill him in one go, and if he is not killed in one blow, Megatron will definitely recover from his frozen state. By then, we will only have another powerful opponent for nothing, Optimus Prime explained. The hatred between them and Megatron can be said to be much stronger than that between humans, but even so, Optimus Prime and his team have never thought of directly attacking Megatron. This is the reason. But if we leave him here and wait for the other Decepticons to arrive, won't they be able to rescue Megatron and make him our powerful enemy? Agent Simon said. This is indeed a problem, Optimus Prime said, and at the same time began to think. Shiansha stood in the crowd at this moment, always keeping silent. He did have an idea in his mind, which was to directly insert a cosmic cube into Megatron's energy core. The original energy of the cube collides with Optimus Prime's own energy, and the final result is that Megatron's energy core will be directly blown up and the entire body will be completely paralyzed. However, if this is done, there will probably be no war between the two sides. After all, without Megatron's leadership, those Decepticons simply couldn't exert their full combat power. After losing the cosmic cube, they couldn't forcefully launch an attack. This war between the Autobots and the Decepticons will be extended indefinitely. Forget it, let's give them the right to choose. I'll judge everything from a God's perspective, which will make the plot very boring. Shiansha finally decided to give up participating in this decision. Let's transfer the cosmic cube first. As for Megatron's matter, it won't be too late for us to deal with it later. Optimus Prime finally decided not to rush to attack Megatron. The reason for this choice is probably related to the past of Megatron and Optimus Prime. After all, Optimus Prime and Megatron were actually best brothers before they parted ways. It was a bit hard for Optimus Prime to kill Megatron when Megatron was already frozen. The villains die because they talk too much, and the good guys fail because of their kindness. My father's words are really true. Shiansha looked at the choice made by Optimus Prime and sighed in his heart. When they were studying with Li Qingyun always warned them that being kind to the enemy was cruel to themselves. When there is a chance to kill the other party, they must not be soft-hearted. Therefore, even when Shiansha and his friends were training in the infinite multiverse, as long as they were sure that there was a threat or an enemy, they would kill them without hesitation. But now that they are here and have the right to choose, Optimus Prime and his friends have made such a choice. It is no wonder that the plot of Transformers has been filmed for several parts, but Megatron has never died. If the good guys were more cruel, like in the first part, after killing Megatron, they would directly melt Megatron's entire body. At that time, no matter how hard the fallen Kongs tried, it would be impossible to restore Megatron. After all, they have all been melted and forged into other things. Since you have decided, let's start the action as soon as possible. Shiansha stood up and said to the agents and Autobots in front of him. Okay, everyone answered at the same time, and almost at the same time, the sound of a large number of helicopter propellers came from outside the 7th district. This sound indicated that the people they mobilized had arrived. Very good, our task force has arrived, and we can act immediately, Agent Zimeng said. Bumblebee, put away the cosmic cube, we will start the action immediately. Shiansha looked at Bumblebee. No problem, Bumblebee answered in a radio voice. Don't we need to tell those people how to act specifically? The head of the 7th district asked. They are all the elite among the elite, and they have already known the mission of this trip before they came here, so there is no need to waste time communicating more. Shiansha knew very well that soldiers only needed an order and a goal, and everything else could be handled by themselves. Saying more about other things would be redundant. Okay, Everything from now on is left to you." The mayor of the 7th district knew very well that he could no longer play any role after things had developed to this point. Chapter 658 Transfer Cube. The two sides reunited, and then the Special Operations Team and the Autobots took the cube and left District 7 directly. District 7 is located under the reservoir dam. If a war breaks out there, it is very likely that the entire downstream will suffer. But Xianxia will not take the cube directly to the city as in the movie, because that approach is actually equivalent to harming people. Of course, it cannot be said that the original plot of going to the city is wrong. After all, under the circumstances at that time, if they stayed on the wide plain, it would basically be equivalent to giving the cube directly to the Decepticons. And the Decepticons will immediately use the cube to transform Earth technology to create more Decepticons. By then, not only will the people in a city be affected, but even the entire Earth will be dragged into the quagmire of war. Therefore, under the circumstances at that time, it was an effective approach to transfer the cube to the city and rely on the streets and complex building environment to delay the Decepticon speed of action. And now, the reason why Xianxia did not leave the city is not that they are not afraid of the Decepticons taking the cube away, but that Xianxia has already made arrangements. They had communicated with the Ministry of Defense before they came back and agreed on a coordinate as the place for their decisive battle with the Decepticons. In other words, as long as their team can get to the designated location, or delay enough time, the supporting troops will be able to arrive and join them. Don't ask why they don't wait until the army arrives before taking action. Because if the army arrives, it will take too long and the target will be too big. Moreover, after the Decepticons find that the army has gathered here on a large scale, they may not show up. If the Decepticons don't show up, how can they wipe out this Decepticon team? If they don't wipe them out once, how can they calm down? A convoy of more than 10 vehicles is now sailing fast on the road. Their target is a wasteland 40 kilometers away. We go directly to the wasteland. There are no fortifications there. Isn't it too risky? Lennox, the commander of the Special Forces, was chatting with his right-hand man Epps. There is no way. If we go to the city, the war will affect civilians, and there will probably be countless casualties. As soldiers, we must protect the safety of civilians as much as possible, Lennox replied. But if the things we are protecting are taken away by them, won't a failure of the mission cause a greater disaster? Epps expressed his doubts. We know this problem, and the people in charge must know it too. They must have made other careful arrangements. You don't have to worry too much, Lennox replied. Are you sure? Epps said, and his question made Lennox hesitate. Indeed, they had to doubt the other party's command ability. Because when they met just now, they clearly saw that the commander this time was just a teenager. How could they, the soldiers who had finally survived on the battlefield, feel at ease to hand over such an important military operation to a teenager to command? You don't have to worry. At this moment, Xianxia's voice came over. Their long-distance communication had been cut off long ago, and they were now communicating through shortwave communication. Sorry, sir, Lennox and Epps thought that Xianxia was blaming them for talking behind their backs. So they immediately apologized. No need to apologize, Xianxia said. I called your team back this time because I planned to form a team with you to deal with the Decepticons. That is to say, in the end we will become comrades who will go through life and death together, and we will become good companions, and companions do not need to be so respectful to each other, Xianxia said. Hearing these words, Lennox and Epps were both stunned. The person who summoned them back was actually Xianxia. Did they say that this was originally the responsibility of the Ministry of Defense? They came back to report directly to the Minister of Defense, so why did they suddenly become such a teenager? 30 miles ahead is the meeting point we agreed with the Ministry of Defense. If we rush over, they will also meet us there, Xianxia said, and when he said these words, Lennox and Epps, who were originally worried about the problem with the strategy, finally understood. It turned out that it was because there was already an arrangement in front, so they went this way. Yes, we will complete the mission according to the instructions, Lennox and Epps answered at the same time. At the same time, Xianxia, who was in Bumblebee's car, was sticking his head out of the car to observe the sky. There, an F-22 was approaching quickly. There is a Decepticon mark on it. The Decepticons are coming, Xianxia said. That's Starscream, Bumblebee answered. The other side has air combat units, but none of you Autobots have this flying ability. It can be said that there is a huge gap between you and the Decepticons in combat configuration. No wonder you are defeated in the war, Qianxia said. On the battlefield, air supremacy can be said to be very important. After all, whoever has air supremacy can directly attack the ground from high altitude, while it is very difficult for targets on the ground to attack targets moving quickly in the air. We Autobots are all civilian vehicles. When we were on Cybertron, we were all civilian robots, and we were peace-loving. Compared to us, the Decepticons are a group of pure war machines. There is naturally a gap between us and them in terms of weapon configuration and firepower. Optimus Prime's voice came over. The leader of the Autobots was still very concerned about the situation of the Autobots. I know this, so I don't think there's anything wrong with you Autobots. I just think you are more precious. It is easy for the strong to maintain peace, but the weak not only need to make more efforts to maintain peace, but also need to take greater risks. Moreover, the idea of the weak fighting against the strong is difficult for ordinary people to even think of. They can do it by the entire tribe rising up to resist and forming their persistence and love for peace. Cars behind, fire shells to create smoke and dust in the desert. Qianxia picked up the walkie-talkie and gave orders to the military vehicles behind. Chapter 659, Battle. After receiving Qianxia's order, the military vehicles following behind immediately launched an attack, using the rocket launchers on the vehicles to directly fire multiple shells at the desert. The desert was attacked by artillery fire, and a large amount of dust was immediately produced, which soon covered the entire convoy. The convoy was covered, and the red spider in the sky could not accurately aim at the target, and its attack could only be blind. Prepare the anti-aircraft guns, and shoot him directly when he's not paying attention. Qianxia is not a person who can only dodge. When they face a Decepticon like Red Spider who has air superiority, no matter how they dodge, the result will be very passive. Therefore, the best way is to shoot him down directly. Only in this way can they completely eliminate this huge hidden danger. Let's do it too. Ironhide immediately began to deform, and the Jazz next to him did the same. The two men knelt on one knee, raised their right hands, and held their arms with their left hands to aim. As long as the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, as long as they could see the red spider in the sky, they would not hesitate to launch an attack directly. The two anti-aircraft guns on the two military vehicles behind were also doing the same thing. As the smoke gradually dissipated, the vision finally became clear. Fire, Qianxia's voice came directly. Then, 4 shells whizzed out and flew towards the red spider in the sky. The red spider in the sky was originally waiting. As long as the smoke dissipated, he would launch an attack and completely eliminate those people on the ground. Unexpectedly, before he started to act, those people on the ground took action first. 4 shells were originally difficult to hit the air target in the case of ground-to-air. But Red Spider was too confident. He didn't expect that those guys were not raising the smoke to escape, but to prepare for a counterattack, so he didn't prepare at all. At this moment, as 4 shells were fired at him at the same time, even if he quickly dodged, there was still a shell hitting his wing. At this moment, the fuselage began to burn with flames, and the performance of the entire fighter was greatly affected. Starscream could no longer launch a direct attack, and could only flee in disgrace. Moreover, his flying altitude was getting lower and lower as the distance he flew became longer. Such an attack can only delay Starscream for a while, but cannot kill him. We must hurry to the designated location and join the troops sent by the Ministry of Defense, Qianxia said, while asking Bumblebee to drive off again. Optimus Prime in front also heard Qianxia's instructions, and drove in front without hesitation to lead the way. Ironhide and Jazz on the left and right sides also returned to the form of cars, and the ambulances and military vehicles behind them all followed closely. This convoy from District 7 was still driving towards the designated location at the fastest speed. However, what Qianxia and the others didn't know was that Starscream, who was attacked by them, happened to land in a special area at this time. Starscream, he landed at the power supply facility of District 7. The power supply system was destroyed as a result, and all the equipment in District 7 that relied on power supply began to stop working. Megatron's ice sealing device had begun to fail at this time. The head of the 7th District looked at the situation in front of him, thinking of what Qianxia had said to him before, and what Megatron had done after being unsealed last time, and he immediately began to panic. "Everyone, leave your position immediately and prepare for protection," the head of the 7th District shouted loudly, and then everyone began to evacuate according to what he said. With Li Qianxia, They had already discussed the response plan for these things, giving priority to evacuation at critical moments to ensure the safety of personnel. Send a communication team as close as possible to the team that set out earlier to see if the situation here can be conveyed to Mr. Li. The head of the 7th district looked at an assistant beside him and said. After receiving the information, the assistant immediately turned around and walked out of the base. He had to get in touch with the troops in front as much as possible, and let those people prepare for prevention. At this moment, Xianxia and others in the front did not know what was happening behind. They just shot down Starscream, and they didn't think about where Starscream would eventually land. Moreover, after Starscream, more Decepticons began to appear. Although these Decepticons did not have the air superiority that Starscream had, they were no less numerous than the Autobots. Most importantly, they had strong firepower and appeared from all directions at the same time, almost immediately forming a siege on them. Optimus Prime, attack the enemy directly in front of you and break their encirclement. Xianxia picked up the shortwave radio and sent a message to Optimus Prime in front of him. Okay, Optimus Prime replied, and then he began to transform directly. After the transformation, Optimus Prime stood directly with a bone crusher. Be careful of the helicopter in the air, Lennox reminded. They recognized the helicopter because it was the helicopter that attacked their military base, and they were later chased by a Decepticon sent by this helicopter. Ironhide, can you shoot it down? Xianxia looked at Ironhide who was guarding outside the window. Yes, the helicopter is not as high as the fighter jet, and my firepower is enough to reach it, Ironhide replied, and then he also began to break, and the whole body began to transform while rolling. As soon as he finished transforming, he raised his hands and fired 2 shells at the helicopter in the air. The 2 cars at the back, you stay to assist Ironhide and Optimus Prime, and fight the Decepticons together with him, Xianxia said to the 2 cars at the end of the convoy. No, all of you go together. At this time, you can't disperse your forces too much. You need to keep enough people around you to better protect the safety of the cube. Optimus Prime heard what Xianxia said and immediately denied Xianxia's arrangement. Yes, the 2 of us can handle it. You don't have to leave more people. Ironhide was also talking. He was not as thoughtful as Optimus Prime. He just thought that he had the ability to deal with the Decepticons in front of him. Okay, in this case, you must be careful. Xianxia did not insist on his own opinion. Anyway, it was all out of consideration for the war, and its purpose was to win this war. Sir, I suggest that the 2 cars at the back drive in front of you and clear the way for you, Lennox said. Okay, Xianxia agreed, and the 2 cars also quickly caught up at this time. Chapter 660 Delay. The convoy continued to move forward. Of course, there were still Decepticons chasing behind them, but the 2 fastest Decepticons had been stopped, and the others, such as the main battle tanks, could not keep up. After all, vehicles like tanks are not good at speed. At this speed, we can reach the designated location soon, Agent Simon calculated. This time, Agent Simon and Assistant Tom also came with the convoy. They were now in Jazz's car next to them and the ambulance behind them. As for why the 3 people sat separately, it was naturally for safety considerations. If all 3 people sat together, Bumblebee would not be able to protect the 3 people at once if a shell hit them. We have been going smoothly all the way. Except for the previous Red Spider, no one has caused us, boom boom boom. Tom hadn't finished his report yet, and several shells fell beside them and exploded directly. The 2 escort vehicles that had just arrived in front of Bumblebee were blown away and exploded in an instant. What's going on? Lennox looked at the 2 overturned cars and asked anxiously. Look up in the sky, there's a strange-looking fighter jet approaching. Someone in charge of observing in the car immediately reported the situation to them. Strange-looking fighter jet, Xianxia frowned, immediately moved to the window, and looked up at the sky. Soon he saw the so-called fighter jet. It's Megatron, that's the fighter jet transformed by Megatron, that's a Cybertron fighter, Jazz said. People on this Earth don't know this kind of Cybertron fighter, but those of them who came from Cybertron are too familiar with it. Megatron, that's the leader of the Decepticons. It was because of this guy's leadership that the Autobots were defeated in the Cybertron Civil War. I'll stop them, Jazz said as he was about to slow down and prepare to transform and fight Megatron. No, you stay, Xianxia directly rejected Jazz's idea. He remembered that Li Qingyun once said that the only Autobot who died in the first Transformers movie was Jazz. Although Jazz was not big and his firepower was average, He was brave and had certain command ability. Staying here would definitely be of great help to him in the future. There is a rocky hill not far to the left. Everyone, head towards that place immediately. Xianxia turned his head and looked at an area on the left side of the front. There was a stone forest corroded by wind and sand, just like a tall building. As long as we enter it, Megatron's air advantage will be greatly weakened. We may be able to deal with him for a while by relying on our advantage in numbers, Xianxia explained, and his words made Jazz no longer have any objections. Their most important task now is to protect the safety of the cube. Therefore, as long as Xianxia's plan is effective, they will naturally not hesitate. So, the convoy began to fire another round of shells, with the same purpose as before, which was to raise a cloud of dust. After the dust was raised, they immediately adjusted their direction and set off towards the stone forest. Megatron didn't know the target of Xianxia and his team, and before coming, he had heard from Red Alert why he was shot down, so Megatron would not repeat the same mistake. However, he miscalculated. Xianxia and his team were not going to repeat the same trick and ambush Megatron in the same way. Instead, when he attacked, they quickly changed direction and rushed towards the stone forest. These cunning humans, Megatron couldn't help cursing as he looked at the convoy that turned around in the fog and made his wave of attacks ineffective. But at this time, even if he had more ideas in his mind, he couldn't complain here at this time. He had to get the magic cube as quickly as possible, otherwise Optimus Prime and his team would come. Moreover, he had noticed that less than 30 kilometers ahead, a large number of troops were approaching. That must be the human reinforcements. Megatron was very confident in his strength, but that didn't mean he would be stupid enough to think that he could fight Optimus Prime and such a large number of human troops at the same time. However, his reaction was still slow after all. The convoy had already entered the stone forest directly. Everyone get off the car immediately, take your weapons and equipment, find your own hiding place, and be prepared for attacks from the sky at any time. As a commander, Lennox is still very good at commanding the team. The team just entered the stone forest and immediately began to make arrangements under his command. At this time, Xianxia stood with the transformed Bumblebee, Jazz and the ambulance. This stone forest can only provide temporary protection, and the scale of the stone forest is not large. If the opponent is ruthless and directly uses strong firepower to cover the bombing, the stone forest may not be able to withstand it, Xianxia said. For such a stone forest, if it were replaced by a super god civilization, it would definitely launch a large missile at the first time to directly destroy the entire stone forest, and then slowly search for the remaining people inside. Therefore, Xianxia must be prepared in advance. Even if it is Megatron, with the physical condition of us Transformers, it is impossible to carry high-powered and offensive weapons all the time, so Megatron should not be able to destroy the entire stone forest at once, Jazz said. Although this is very possible, we can't rely on others' expectations, we must be fully prepared, Xianxia said. The three of us will act separately, and we can't hide completely. We have to rely on the obstacles of the stone forest to attack the Decepticons outside, so as to attract all their attention and let them fight with us directly, so that they won't have time to launch a large-scale bombing, Xianxia thought more carefully. What he wanted was that both sides would be in a state of constant fighting, but the Decepticons couldn't hurt them directly, so he had to delay time in this way. Okay, we'll start the layout right away, Jazz nodded in agreement, and then immediately walked to the left. The ambulance went to the right, and Bumblebee stayed in the middle. Lennox and his team also dispersed, formed a cooperation with each other, and launched a battle formation in the stone forest. They continued to attack the Decepticons outside. Megatron, and the two Decepticons who came later, started to fight with them. The firepower of Xianxia and his men was obviously much smaller, but they relied on the stone forest for protection, and the attacks from the opposite side could not easily hurt them inside the stone forest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661, Firefight. These cunning humans, they want to delay time in this way. Megatron had seen Xianxia's idea, but at this moment, he had no idea what to do. The other party occupied the advantageous terrain of the stone forest and was constantly attacking them. If he approached directly, the other party's firepower would be able to severely damage them. But if he didn't go over, it would be very difficult to defeat the humans inside. Railgun. Megatron knelt on one knee, quickly put his hands together, and then began to assemble a new gun mount. A railgun shell was released instantly. Scatter. Xianxia saw the railgun and immediately knew its power, and immediately pulled Agent Simon next to him to lie down together. Almost at the moment he lay down, a huge stone pillar in front of him was directly bombarded into powder, and the broken stones on the upper layer fell directly towards Xianxia. Bumblebee next to him saw this scene and rushed forward to block Xianxia above and block the many rebels for him. That's a railgun, which is also a very powerful attack weapon in Cybertron. I didn't expect Megatron to have such a weapon system. Jazz sent a message. District 7 has been researching this railgun, but it has not been successful so far, Agent Simon said. He has been in charge of the reverse engineering research project for Megatron in District 7, so he knew that Megatron had an electromagnetic railgun. In the second movie, it was precisely because of his understanding of this intelligence that he was able to directly contact the U.S. aircraft carrier formation and let them use railguns to support and knock down Hercules. If Megatron continues to attack with railguns, this stone forest may not last long, Lennox said. Give me the sniper rifle, Xianxia said. After hearing his words, a Special Forces soldier next to him immediately took out a sniper rifle and handed it to Xianxia. Xianxia took the sniper rifle, immediately raised it, and began to aim at Megatron. When Megatron was about to launch a second round of railgun attack, Xianxia fired first. The bullet was fired instantly, leaving a trace in the air, and then directly hit the keynote of Megatron's railgun. That was the energy construction point of electromagnetic launch. It was not the most important for the entire railgun, but once it was attacked, the launch of the railgun would be affected, and the shells would not be able to attack smoothly. After being interrupted once, Megatron did not give up, because in his opinion, it was just a lucky chance of the opponent. He started to prepare again, and wanted to use the second shell to attack the direction where the sniper bullet just came from. But the result this time was exactly the same as before. He had just started to prepare, and before he could dispatch the energy, a bullet accurately attacked the previous position, directly disrupting his railgun launch system. Those humans actually know the weakness of the railgun. Megatron was shocked. This is a railgun, and it is a simple rapid-fire railgun in his hand. It only takes 1 or 2 seconds to charge the railgun, but in this 1 or 2 seconds, the opponent can always accurately attack the weak point. In other words, the opponent is very clear about the structure of the railgun, and knows exactly when to attack to produce the best effect. These humans who are compared have been studying me, but I didn't expect that they have even studied the railgun. Megatron didn't know the true identity of Xianxia. He just thought that the Earthlings knew the weakness of the railgun by analyzing the weapon system on him. But in fact, Xianxia's technology is much higher than his. With such a small weapon system, Xianxia only needs to see the overall structure and cracking method at a glance. Master, Red Spider is back. Just when Megatron was helpless for a while, Red Spider's voice came. Red Spider, who was hit by the wing of the plane and forced to make an emergency landing, repaired a damaged part so quickly and returned to the battlefield. Quick, destroy that stone forest. Megatron didn't have time to worry about Red Spider's failure. He just wanted to get rid of these Earthlings as soon as possible, so that he could get back the Rubik's Cube. Yes, Master, Red Spider replied, and then flew quickly from high in the sky, and all the missiles on his cabin were launched at the stone forest in one breath. Quick, everyone leave the stone forest immediately. Ambulance looked at the missiles falling from the sky and immediately reminded loudly. Those who could participate in this operation were not ordinary people, so their reaction speed was naturally not slow. Hearing Ambulance's reminder, everyone immediately walked out of the stone forest. Almost at the moment they walked out, the missiles had already fallen and the explosion occurred instantly. The entire stone forest was covered by the flames of the explosion in an instant, and many stone pillars were shattered. Even if there were no shatters, they would be covered by the subsequent flames and dust from the explosion. If you stay inside, you will be disabled even if you don't die. Xianxia was originally on the periphery of the stone forest, so it was still timely to evade. However, he had just jumped out and was immediately locked by Megatron, because behind him, the Rubik's Cube was hanging in a large cloth bag. Boy, you are the one who interrupted my attack. Megatron looked at the sniper rifle in Xianxia's hand, and thought of the situation that he had interrupted his attack 2 or 3 times in a row, so he directly determined that it was Xianxia who did it. "Yes, it was me," Xianxia said, and he lay on the ground and began to aim the sniper rifle in his hand. Bang! The gunshot sounded, and a bullet whizzed out, aiming directly at one of Megatron's eyes. Megatron had no time to dodge, and the bullet just landed on his eye. Fortunately, the protection on Megatron's eyes was strong enough, and the bullet used by Xianxia was not powerful enough. Otherwise, this shot would definitely make Megatron blind. Asshole! With a curse, Megatron raised the gun in his hand and fired at Xianxia. Facing the pouring bullets, Xianxia quickly rolled on the ground and dodged quickly. At the same time, not far away, the front of a red semi-trailer was coming quickly. Before the front of the car arrived, it flipped over and began to deform. It was Optimus Prime who arrived. Chapter 662 Megatron Escapes. "Hold on, Skysha," Optimus Prime shouted loudly. After he transformed, a huge energy sword appeared in his hand and rushed towards Megatron's position. Megatron dared not neglect Optimus Prime's arrival. Among the Autobots, there were only 2 people who could compete with Megatron. One was the former Autobot leader Archimedes and the other was Optimus Prime in front of him. Therefore, when facing Optimus Prime, even if Megatron boasted of his strong strength, he had to go all out. Megatron put away his guns and took out a big knife and chopped at the energy giant sword in Optimus Prime's hand. The 2 sides collided in this instant, and the energy sword and the big knife collided with each other, sparks flying. The 2 soon fought together, and Ironhide, who arrived later, also joined the Autobots and started a fierce battle with the Decepticons. All the people on the Special Forces side took action. They must support the Autobots as much as possible. Otherwise, the Autobots, who were inferior to the Decepticons in firepower and numbers, would find it difficult to win in this battle. "Everyone, aim at the eyes and energy devices on the chests of those Decepticons. That's where their weaknesses are," Xianxia shouted loudly, notifying all the soldiers around him. These soldiers did not hesitate, and one by one, they all took up their weapons and participated in the battle. They were all survivors from the battlefield. Even those selected from the 7th District were all experienced special forces. Therefore, although this team is small in number, it is definitely a very powerful force. In addition, with Xianxia, who is very familiar with Transformers, leading them, their battle went more smoothly. Bang bang bang. The sound of gunfire, the collision of bullets and metal, and the sound of artillery shells exploding came one after another. The Decepticons soon fell into passive position. Especially those who were not particularly strong in combat. Their vital parts, such as the eyes, were not as strong as Megatron's defense after being hit by high-heat energy armor-piercing bullets. After being hit, they would be severely injured. 2 of them were directly blinded. Without vision, even though the Decepticons had strong firepower and were larger than the Autobots, they were completely at a disadvantage when the 2 sides fought. Therefore, the 2 Decepticons were quickly killed by Bumblebee and Ratchet, as well as the Tau Saints. Without 2 Decepticons, the other Decepticons had a more difficult time fighting. At the same time, in the distant sky, a large number of fighters were flying quickly. "Oh no, the human reinforcements have arrived," Starscream shouted loudly. He was fighting with Ironhide at the moment and could have been in the upper hand, but if those fighters joined the battle, his situation would definitely be very difficult. "Master, you have finally recovered. You can't sacrifice here in vain. Our army still needs you to lead it." Starscream came to Megatron and persuaded him earnestly. "Do you want me to be a coward and retreat in the face of battle?" Megatron was very angry. He was the most powerful warrior and the invincible god of war. It was too embarrassing for him to run away. "This is not a retreat, Master, this is a strategic retreat," Starscream persuaded. "The enemy has many people and they have the help of the Autobots. If we continue to stay, the result will be annihilation. If you die, then there will be no one to help Lord Corvus fulfill his wish." Starscream mentioned Corvus, and the name of Corvus finally made Megatron sober up. Compared with a battle, Corvus is obviously more important in Megatron's heart. So, he no longer lingered in the battle, but immediately turned around and transformed, flying towards the sky. Starscream followed closely behind, and also turned into F-22 and followed closely behind. Megatron and Starscream have extremely fast flying speeds, and can directly enter space, so if they want to escape, no one can catch up. But the other Decepticons are miserable. They don't have that kind of flying speed, and they are directly surrounded by the Autobots and the army that came, and the end is naturally a dead end. I never thought that one day I would be able to drive away Megatron, the killing machine. Jazz looked at the sky and couldn't help sighing. This time we have the advantage of time, place and people. We are definitely going to win against them with our absolute advantage, Optimus Prime said. Yes, we have an absolute advantage. If we still can't win this battle, it would make us look a little too incompetent. Scientia stepped forward and stood beside Optimus Prime. You are very strong, Scientia. Optimus Prime looked down at Li Qingyun. This boy who looked exactly like the others, and even thinner than other soldiers, showed such strong fighting power. Especially his layout of the war today, from when to leave the 7th district, and then to arrange sniping with the help of smoke halfway, to now quickly relying on the stone forest to delay time and wait for the arrival of military support. Scientia's strategic arrangement is very appropriate. It is also relying on you Autobots as the core combat force. Otherwise, it is impossible to support until the arrival of the large army with our little strength. Scientia knew very well that the key to this war was never his arrangement, but the existence of the Autobots. The absolute strength of the Autobots, relying on their help, is the key for Scientia and his team to delay time and turn defeat into victory. Maybe you are right, but in any case, this time we won because of you. I have to thank you very much. Optimus Prime squatted down, trying to get closer to Scientia. If you really want to thank me, can you help find more Autobots? I need more helpers and allies. Scientia looked at Optimus Prime very seriously, because all this is really what he needs now. I understand, Optimus Prime nodded. The Rubik's Cube is still there, and Megatron is still alive. At this time, the war is not over. In order to snatch the Rubik's Cube, Megatron will definitely come back again, and the next time he comes, Megatron will definitely not appear with only a few Decepticons like now. The next time, it is likely to be a legion, a team of extremely powerful Decepticons. With only the current manpower, it is definitely not enough to go to war with such Decepticons. I will send a message to the entire universe, publicly inviting all Autobots to come to Earth, Optimus Prime replied. That's great, Scientia nodded, very satisfied with the result. Chapter 663 The Power of the Rubik's Cube. After the battle, Scientia led the Autobots and Lennox's special forces to a large military base under the escort of the military. Here, the Minister of Defense and many senior military officials were already in place. There were also a large number of soldiers ready to fight and prevent the Decepticons from attacking at any time. Minister Taylor, thank you for your support. Scientia came to the Minister of Defense and said very politely. This is what I should do, the Minister of Defense responded. Is this the Rubik's Cube on your back? The Minister of Defense looked behind Scientia, at the cube that was only more than 20 centimeters long and wide. Yes, this is the source of energy for the Transformers, the Rubik's Cube. Scientia finished speaking, then took off the Rubik's Cube and handed it to the Minister of Defense. The Minister of Defense looked at the Rubik's Cube in front of him, but suddenly hesitated. He really wanted to see what it was that could make aliens come to Earth to snatch it. But he was also worried that this alien thing would not be harmful to humans. Don't worry, the radiation it produces will only react to machines, and will not have any effect on humans. Scientia saw the Minister of Defense's hesitation and explained to him directly. You said that it can affect machines. What kind of effect is it? The Minister of Defense finally took the Rubik's Cube. After all, he had already reached out his hand before, and it would be embarrassing if he didn't dare to take it now. About this, I can directly let the Autobots demonstrate it to you, so that you can see it more intuitively. After Scientia finished speaking, he turned his head and looked at Bumblebee. Bumblebee received Scientia's signal and walked forward directly, standing in front of the Minister of Defense and many military higher-ranking officials. Clear the area. Bumblebee took the Rubik's Cube back from the Minister of Defense. The purpose of letting the Minister of Defense take it over was just to prove that Scientia didn't want to keep it for himself, so as to eliminate the doubts of the guys in the Ministry of Defense. This thing will definitely be handed over to the Autobots for safekeeping in the end. Clear the area. The Minister of Defense looked at Scientia in confusion. Move everything on the square away, fighter jets, tanks, etc., and clear out a space of 300 meters long and wide, Scientia said. In fact, it is not necessary to do that to show the power of the Rubik's Cube, but this is a special arrangement by Scientia, with only one purpose, to let the Ministry of Defense really see the harm of the Rubik's Cube. Only when all the military leaders realize the harm of the Rubik's Cube and the real horror of the Decepticons, will they believe everything that Xianxia and District 7 said before. After everyone had left the square and a space of several hundred meters long and wide was cleared in the military camp, Bumblebee walked to the center with the Rubik's Cube. As he tapped his finger on the Rubik's Cube began to deform rapidly. From the original cube of only more than 20 centimeters long and wide, it began to change rapidly, and finally formed a huge cube of several hundred meters long and wide. The lines on it became more complicated than when it was a small cube, and the radiation generated by its energy was also stronger. Fortunately, all the energy is still within the controllable range. And Bumblebee is still controlling it closely. Ambulance. Xianxia looked at the ambulance. When the ambulance heard Xianxia calling him, he hurried forward and took out a transparent glass cabinet. This was made of special tempered glass, similar to the one in the laboratory of District 7, but more sturdy. Xianxia found a mobile phone at random and put it directly into the glass cabinet. Then Bumblebee began to manually guide the energy of the Rubik's Cube into the glass cabinet. Affected by the energy, the mobile phone began to deform rapidly and turned into a small robot. After the transformation, this small robot directly began to attack frantically. Various machine guns, artillery shells, and even micro-missiles. The fierceness of its firepower far exceeded the scope of human imagination. The Minister of Defense looked at this scene and naturally understood what Xianxia wanted to express. All machines affected by the energy of this Rubik's Cube will become transformers like this, and the personalities cannot be directional. We cannot be sure whether they will become Autobots or Decepticons after they are created, but so far, all the machines involved in the experiment have become this ferocious and violent after being affected by radiation, Xianxia explained, and after hearing this, many senior officials of the Ministry of Defense immediately understood a problem. That is, they tried to use the energy of the Rubik's Cube to create a powerful robot army that they can control, which is absolutely impossible. Whether it is Xianxia or the Autobots, they actually understand that the energy of the Rubik's Cube can create Decepticons, and naturally it can also create Autobots. But they will not show this characteristic, and the reason is very simple, that is, to avoid being used by humans. Whether it is humans or Transformers, all species with intelligence will have desires. Among today's human beings, there are many countries and forces, and there are disputes between these countries. If they are given a stronger military force, a war between humans inside the Earth will immediately break out. Moreover, even if they are transformed into Autobots, due to their different personalities, they will have internal conflicts and different ideas when their numbers increase. It is absolutely impossible for humans to rule. Now this method is used to completely cut off their ideas at the source. What should we do now? Keeping this thing can only be a huge threat to our Earth. Someone soon raised the question. They did want to use this thing to make a profit for themselves. But now they have determined that this thing can never be used by them, so its existence itself can only be a threat. The best way is to destroy it completely, Optimus Prime said. Then how can it be destroyed? The Minister of Defense asked, and he now understood that this seemed to be the only option. The only known way is to fuse it with the spark source, relying on our Transformer's own energy source to react with the energy of the Rubik's Cube, thereby destroying the energy of the Rubik's Cube, but the result of doing so is equivalent to sacrificing a Transformer. After Optimus Prime said this, everyone present began to remain silent. No one could make such a request to let others sacrifice themselves to destroy the Rubik's Cube. Chapter 664 The Final Ending. Is this the only way to do it? The Minister of Defense also understood that it was not possible to force others to do something. He could only hope that there were other ways. At present, I know of only this one way. The others, Optimus Prime did not continue, but his meaning was clear. Since the Rubik's Cube contains powerful energy, and it can be destroyed by using your energy to offset it, then as long as we start researching in this area, we will definitely find a way to crack it, Xianxia spoke. He actually had a way to destroy the Rubik's Cube. However, he did not say it out loud, because it involved the super god technology he possessed, which was considered cheating. Therefore, Xianxia only proposed such a plan and idea. Okay, then according to what you said, we will set up a special research and development department to start researching how to destroy this Rubik's Cube, the Minister of Defense agreed. Before there are no other ways, this is the only way. In this case, just implement it according to this method. Optimus Prime, don't be too wishful. Optimus Prime wanted to say something else, But Xianxia's words directly rebuked him. Want to sacrifice yourself to protect others, but this kind of thing may not necessarily make someone remember your kindness. If Optimus Prime really died, then the Decepticons who made a comeback would be unstoppable, and their situation would be more dangerous than it is now. Moreover, even if the Decepticon issue is resolved, the Earth itself is the Yuanqi Xianzhen, and Cybertron will eventually conflict with the Earth. By then, humans will still face the crisis of extinction. Therefore, the best way is to let humans wake up by themselves, and let them understand and think about how to fight the Decepticons in the battles with the Decepticons again and again. Only in this way can the Earth finally find the chance to survive in this game between Cybertron and Earth. With Xianxia's reminder, Optimus Prime did not say that he could voluntarily destroy the cube. The Autobots and humans remained on Earth as allies, and began to invite more Autobots to come to Earth. At the same time, Xianxia and Lennox's team formed a special operations team and established a nest base. The cube was sealed in the basement of the nest, where there is a special laboratory, where a large number of scientists and technicians are working together to study how to destroy the cube. At the same time, the Nest troops began to search for the existence of Decepticons worldwide. They wanted to eradicate all these guys lurking on the Earth. Everything is going well, except that the cube has never been destroyed. Optimus Prime and Xianxia are sitting in the central open space of the Nest base, looking up at the sunset together. Do you really think that everything will be over once the cube is destroyed? Xianxia said. He has stayed here for a long time, so long that half a year has passed. You know, when he was in the Marvel Universe before, even if he traveled through parallel universes many times, the longest time he stayed in that universe was only 1 or 2 months. But now, he has been in this Transformers world for half a year. The journey of the dimensional universe is completely different from the journey of a multiverse. The things in the dimensional universe cannot be solved by simply solving an incident, and it is not possible to know the key to the matter in just 1 or 2 months. The current Transformers world actually has a relatively small worldview, but the development of the entire event will take several years or even more than 10 years. Before traveling through time, Li Qingyun specifically told Xianxia that his trip this time was destined to be long, and he might need to experience decades, hundreds of years, or even thousands of years in the infinite dimensional travel. But these experiences are not a bad thing for Xianxia, as they can allow Xianxia to accumulate more wisdom and strength over the years. Li Qingyun even told Xianxia that if he travels in the dimensional universe, there will be a 2-year time difference when he returns to the Marvel Universe. In other words, when Xianxia returns to the Marvel Universe, it must be 2 years after he left the Marvel Universe. And this 2-year time limit will not be affected by the length of time Xianxia has been in other dimensional universes. In other words, no matter how long Xianxia is in the dimensional universe, he will return to the Marvel Universe 2 years later. If he only stays in the dimensional universe for a few months and then goes back, it would be a waste of time. Therefore, Xianxia is not worried about how long he will experience here. This war is no longer a war between the Autobots and Decepticons, but a war between Cybertron and Earth. Of the two civilizations, perhaps only one can survive in the end, unless we can wipe out all the Decepticons, and then you Autobots can return to Cybertron. Otherwise, Xianxia didn't continue, but Optimus Prime already understood what he meant. Our power is too different from that of the Decepticons. It's impossible to win this war with the Decepticons, Optimus Prime said. There's a chance, don't we still have it? Xianxia smiled. Since he has traveled here, he will definitely solve the problems of this world before leaving. If he really can't do it with his current power, Xianxia will just give up his hidden identity and do it himself. With his power, let alone dealing with a group of Decepticons, even if he directly crushes the entire Cybertron into a ball and repairs it, it would be easy. It's not my intention to let you humans pay for the mistakes between us Transformers, Optimus Prime said. We Earthlings have a saying, if you give me a foot, I will give you a foot, Xianxia said. You risked your lives to come from the universe to help us humans fight against the invasion of the Decepticons. We will help you return to Cybertron and drive the Decepticons away. Isn't this a matter of course? Besides, the Decepticons have brought so much damage to the Earth. If we don't fight back, it would be too cowardly. Xianxia's idea is like this. Of course, this cannot be the idea of all humans on the Earth. But Xianxia doesn't care what those people think. Sometimes, the human group needs a group of determined people to lead. Of course, leading is not forcing. Once forced, the meaning is completely opposite. Chapter 665, Encirclement and Suppression of Decepticons. Optimus Prime, Commander Li, the latest data detected, super energy has appeared. Lennox's voice came from the base's broadcasting system. Let's go, there's something to do. Qianxia stood up and walked towards the base. Optimus Prime did not hesitate and followed Qianxia. The two entered the base and came to the front of the operating platform together. Colonel Lennox, what's the situation? Qianxia asked. From the energy detection, the opponent's energy intensity is extremely high, and it is located in a densely populated area. If we want to launch an attack, I'm afraid we have to arrange a large-scale evacuation of personnel in advance, Lennox reported, and the coordinates he pointed to were a large city with a very dense population in the eastern country. I need more detailed intelligence, Qianxia said. Where is Simon? What news has he received? He and Chelsea are investigating in the front, and I'm afraid it will take some time for accurate news to come, Lennox replied. Then wait a little longer, and after Simon sends back accurate news, we can decide how to act specifically, Qianxia said. The enemy's energy is very active. If we delay the action, the enemy may make some moves, Lennox reminded. When they face Transformers, they have always been very cautious, because if they are not careful once, it may cause huge losses. In recent days, someone in Congress has begun to target them. They have to bear the pressure from above, which will be very troublesome. It's okay, don't panic, Qianxia didn't care about it at all. The special envoys of Congress and the like are not worth mentioning in Qianxia's eyes. All he has to do is to concentrate on dealing with the Decepticons. Connect me to Simon's call, Qianxia turned to the technician beside him and said. Agent Simon's line is connected, the technician answered, and then a communication voice came over. Command Center, this is Agent Simon. The voice coming from the other side was Agent Simon's voice. Are you in the Magic City now? Qianxia asked. Yes, I'm here now. Tom and I are investigating the target, Agent Simon answered, but his voice was obviously very cautious, as if he was afraid that it would be spread too far and known by too many people. His mysterious look was very similar to his personality. Okay, find out the detailed information of the other party as soon as possible, Qianxia said. This time, the place where you are is populated by a large number of people. If you act rashly without accurate information, it may cause a large number of casualties, but if it takes too long, there may be accidents, Qianxia reminded. Don't worry, we are all veterans. It's just a small matter. We will definitely investigate it for you as soon as possible. After Agent Simon answered, he temporarily cut off the communication. They were approaching the Decepticons. If they kept communicating, it would be easy for the other party to notice something was wrong. If they were discovered, they would be alarmed. Lennox, contact the Eastern Powers and ask for their cooperation. Wait, I will contact them in person this time. He originally wanted to do it as in the past, but thinking of the countries involved this time, he decided to do it himself. After all, he also has Oriental blood, and he is the commander of the Nest base, so if he comes forward, it is the greatest respect for the other party. Soon, Qianxia got in touch with the other party and asked for their consent. The Nest troops began to gather people, and they took a special transport plane and began to head to the Magic City. At the same time, the officials in the Magic City have begun to cooperate and announce to the citizens that there is a gas leak problem and they will start to evacuate people. Before a battle with the Decepticons begins, they must ensure that innocent people are evacuated as much as possible, and only in this way can they better protect people. As for the damaged property, there is no way, it can only be protected by the officials. They are combat troops and can't care so much. Our investigation has results. Agent Simon's communication came. There are 2 Decepticons here, one of which is a big guy. If it gets out of control, it will definitely cause unimaginable damage. Agent Simon's report can be said to be extremely useful for the actions of the Nest troops. Knowing the number of the opponent and the size of the opponent, you can make a better judgment. Directly cooperate with people and vehicles to fight. We must take down the enemy as soon as they start to move, so as to prevent them from entering the crowd and causing damage. Qianxia looked at the soldiers around him and gave orders to all of them. Yes, we will make tactical arrangements immediately, Lennox and others all agreed. Then, the whole team began to dispatch and arrange personnel. The number of Autobots arriving on Earth now is much larger than at the beginning. In addition to the original Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Jazz, Ironhide, and Ambulance, There are also the new Sideswipe, the twin Autobots, and the three sisters Chelsea. It can be said that they are in an absolute advantage, and it is certain that they will take down the Decepticons. The key issue is to minimize the damage to the local area and reduce casualties. All personnel have completed evacuation, and we can start the action. The latest situation came from the command center. The evacuation of all irrelevant personnel has been completed. As long as the next battle does not exceed the preset area, there will be no casualties. Very good, Qianxia responded. Side barrel, Bumblebee, you two take the lead. Epps, lead your team to fight with him. Qianxia issued an order through the communication system, and those who received the order immediately began to act. Bumblebee and Sidebar were already on the ground, and the team led by Epps also quietly entered the designated area. In the air, helicopters were ready to be ordered. In the sky, there was a large transport plane with Optimus Prime and an ambulance. As for Qianxia, he and Jazz were on the periphery of the battlefield at the moment. They were the temporary command center and also the second line of defense to prevent the Decepticons from breaking through the blockade. Everyone started to act, and the team led by Epps went directly into the area where super energy was detected. The combatants were still getting closer until they could see the car disguised by the Decepticons. In an instant, the battle broke out directly. Both sides began to fight head-on. Chapter 666, Fallen King Kong. The battle was a foregone conclusion. The first Decepticon who was discovered and revived was killed by Sideswipe and Bumblebee almost instantly. But the appearance of the second one was somewhat unexpected. It had just transformed when it fired a cannonball directly onto the ground. The shock wave generated by the cannonball blew away all the cement pipes and a large number of steel pipes in the area where it was located. The steel pipes running around caused a loophole in the original encirclement formation. The Decepticon directly transformed into a huge unicycle and rushed out in the most brutal way. Sideswipe and Bumblebee had no time to react, so they had no way to stop it. It was now heading towards Qianxia. Ironhide, it's time for you to show off your equipment. Qianxia turned his head and looked at Ironhide on the side. Don't worry, I can definitely deal with that guy. Ironhide immediately began to transform, and he had a cannon in his hand, a cannon specially prepared to deal with large targets. This is the weapon that Optimus Prime strongly requested the Autobots to arm themselves with after seeing the electromagnetic cannon used by Megatron in the last war. However, this requires extremely high technology, so far, the entire Autobot team has only this one. Optimus Prime put it on Ironhide, because Ironhide was originally an Autobot weapon expert. The electromagnetic cannon directly locks the front, and as long as the opponent appears, the shell will be fired immediately. Be prepared, it will appear soon, Optimus Prime said, and in his hand, a huge energy point has been marked on the energy detector approaching. I can feel it too, Jazz said. Come on, let me give you a taste of my latest electromagnetic cannon. Ironhide was already feeling a little impatient. He wanted to test it out to see how powerful his weapon was. Here it comes. As soon as Optimus Prime finished speaking, a huge wheel with a strange-shaped robot on the wheel appeared. This is one of the two Decepticons lurking here, and the only one that still exists today. Fire! All the soldiers who had been waiting around for a long time pulled the triggers in their hands, and a large number of bullets poured out like raindrops. At the same time, the electromagnetic cannon in Ironhide's hand also fired. If the other bullets could only tickle the Decepticon at most, then the power of the electromagnetic cannon was like a hammer. This hammer did not kill the Decepticon directly, but the huge impact force still knocked it over instantly. Its huge body was easily penetrated by the railgun shells. If it was not big enough, Ironhide's shot would not have hit its vitals directly, and it would have become a pile of scrap metal at this moment. Of course, if it didn't die, he would have no chance to struggle. After being knocked down, the Decepticon was directly surrounded by many soldiers around, and a large number of bullets poured down, and they were all aimed at the vital parts of its body. Jazz and Ironhide, two Autobots, had already rushed up, and Bumblebee and Sidewinder who caught up behind also joined the battle. With the four people joining forces, the Decepticon had no chance to resist at all. The final result, of course, was that he was chopped into pieces. However, when the Autobots were about to give him the last blow on the head, they stopped. Qianxia walked out of the crowd and looked at the Decepticons. Leave a last word, Qianxia said. And this was actually said by Optimus Prime in the movie. However, now Optimus Prime didn't need to take action against the Decepticons. with Xianxia leading the team himself and so many people besieging. Although the Decepticons were very large, they were still not enough for them to tear them apart. "The Earth is not your territory, and the fallen King Kong will make a comeback," said the Decepticons. Fallen King Kong, Epps had a question mark on his face. "It should be a leader among the Decepticons," Xianxia said. "I remember Optimus Prime said before that the Rubik's Cube is the historical encyclopedia of your Transformers. There should be news about the fallen King Kong in it. Let Optimus Prime check it out when we go back." Xianxia didn't need to worry about things like the fallen King Kong, because he already knew about the existence of those guys. The reason why the Decepticon was allowed to speak this paragraph was nothing more than to show off to the humans. Only by letting the humans in this world know that such a person exists, can they further propose solutions to the Security Council to deal with these things. That's right, Xianxia's ultimate goal is to promote the establishment of a common counter-organization for the Security Council, rather than simply being led by a certain country. When Xianxia contacted the top leaders of the Eastern Power before, he had already proposed a related plan. But now they lack an opportunity to unite with each other. "Then, I'll send him on his way." After saying this, Ironhide pointed the muzzle directly at the Decepticon's head. The sound of gunfire rang out, and the head exploded. The final result of this Decepticon was still death. "Everyone, start to evacuate in an orderly manner," Xianxia gave an order, and the army began to quickly board helicopters and military vehicles to leave here. Then, the military of the Eastern Power will join in. They will directly take over this place and clean up all the traces left by the Decepticons. Almost at the same time, on the other side of the distant universe, on the planet Cybertron. At this time, Cybertron was already in ruins, and it had completely become the lair of the Decepticons. No Autobot could stay here any longer. "Master, our spies on Earth have been eliminated one after another. If this continues, I'm afraid we will completely lose control of the Earth." Megatron came to a throne, and on this throne, many steel chains were besieging a transformer that was different from other transformers. He was the Fallen, a transformer from the ancient times. Unlike the current transformers, their bodies formed a new body shape by adapting to a certain mechanical body. The Fallen was still the original transformer. "Do you want to launch an all-round war against the Earth?" The Fallen looked at Megatron, looking at his best apprentice. "Instead of sitting and waiting to die, it is better to do your best to fight with the opponent," Megatron said. "We Decepticons are still powerful, but the Earth is still in disarray. As long as we take them by surprise, we can directly attack the interior of the Earth. Then it will not be difficult to snatch the Tesseract back." Megatron has wanted to go back to Earth many times, but Fallen King Kong always felt that it was not the right time. Chapter 667, The Purpose of the Fallen King Kong. On Earth, in the Nest Base. Xianxia has returned with the combat troops that went out, and everyone is gathered together at this moment. At this moment, they are preparing to connect to the Pentagon's communication. They need to report to the military leaders about the Fallen Kong. "General Mitchell, during this combat operation, we got some special information and need to report to you." Lennox stepped forward. This kind of reporting work has always been his responsibility. Although Xianxia is the commander of the entire Nest Base, and his rank is one level higher than Lennox. But Xianxia is really unwilling to do this kind of thing, and he is not the kind of person who will speak humbly to others. He is a dignified prince of the super god civilization, and he will definitely inherit the future ruler of the huge universe empire of the super god civilization. How could he be here to be humble to a general of a country on a small Earth? "Colonel Lennox, go ahead, we are all here," a reply came from the other side soon. Many generals at the Pentagon military staff meeting were all looking at the communication projection at this moment. "Then, for the sake of confidentiality, we will play Optimus Prime's voice directly for you." Lennox said this and stepped aside. Then, Optimus Prime came to the communication equipment and transformed directly into a robot. Optimus Prime had just completed the transformation and was about to report when a noise came from outside the base. "What's going on?" Xianxia turned around and looked directly at the entrance of the base. "General, someone came with the president's letter of authorization and said he wanted to enter the base to meet with the Autobots." The soldier in charge of guarding the entrance of the base quickly replied. "Drive him away and return the letter of authorization directly to me." Xianxia is not Lennox. Lennox in the movie couldn't stop that guy, so he let him come in and talk nonsense, and directly told the secret of where the Rubik's Cube fragments were hidden, which led to the theft of the Rubik's Cube fragments in the end. and even directly caused a major crisis in the development of the plot of Transformers 2. But now, it is him, Xianxia, who is in charge of this nest base, a guy who doesn't care about the president of a country or other high-ranking officials. His only purpose here is to fight against the Decepticons. Anyone who wants to disrupt his plans must be expelled and eradicated. Mr. Li, he came with the president's letter of instruction. It's not appropriate to drive him away directly, right? Lennox said with some concern. There's nothing inappropriate, Xianxia said decisively. Even if the president comes, he must report to me in advance, and he is not allowed to make decisions after he comes here. If you don't want to follow my rules, then fire me first. I don't care anyway, Xianxia said his thoughts very directly. At this moment, the generals who were already sitting opposite the communication in the military staff meeting were all silent. In the end, it was Admiral Mitchell, who was in charge, who made the decision. He directly told the secretary beside him to help him contact the president. The situation afterwards was also easy to guess. It was nothing more than Admiral Mitchell having a detailed discussion with the president, telling the new president directly about the special nature of Xianxia, and then preventing such things from happening in the future. In the previous incident with the Minister of Defense, the head of the 7th District had already told several core members of the government many secrets afterwards. Therefore, there were actually several people in the officialdom who knew about Xianxia. However, recently, their president changed terms. The previous one left, and the new one obviously didn't know the whole situation, and wanted to establish his prestige, so he did this. Optimus Prime, continue your report. You don't need to pay special attention to the things caused by those unimportant people. Xianxia didn't take the previous things too seriously. At this time, the most critical issue for him was to focus on telling the matter of the fallen King Kong and find the right direction for all these people. Yes, Major General Xianxia is right, it's still the business that matters, Admiral Mitchell said. As for the fact that he specifically mentioned Xianxia's military rank, his intention was also very simple, that is, he wanted to tell Xianxia that he was just a major general, and at least some face on the surface should be given to them, the generals, and the president of the country. However, Xianxia didn't care about this so-called well-intentioned reminder at all. He said nothing, just stood quietly aside, waiting for things to continue. Last night, the Decepticon we killed in the Magic City provided us with an important clue about the fallen King Kong. Optimus Prime began to talk about the real topic. After our investigation of the history recorded in the Rubik's Cube, we found that this fallen King Kong was actually one of the 6 ancient elders of our planet Cybertron. Thousands of years ago, he built a special launch machine on Earth. This machine can destroy the sun and use the sun to convert it into the energy needed by new Transformers, that is, new Rubik's Cubes? What did you say? Hearing Optimus Prime's words, the military leaders on the opposite side all looked over in shock. Destroy the sun and create new energy. For the Earth, the sun is a must. If there is no sun, all life on Earth will be destroyed. Even the planetary structure of the entire solar system will be destroyed, and then the entire solar system will be completely destroyed. The mechanical life forms of our Cybertron need the energy provided by the Rubik's Cube to survive. So, on Cybertron, we will look for suitable stars in the universe every once in a while and use them to replenish the energy we need by converting them. But we have always followed a principle, that is, we will never destroy the stars of galaxies with life, Optimus Prime replied. Since we don't destroy the stars of galaxies with life, why would we build such a machine on our Earth? Admiral Mitchell asked. This matter has already involved the life and death of the entire Earth, and it is no longer a small event. Therefore, he must have more information and know the whole truth. According to the records of the Rubik's Cube, one of the 6 elders violated this principle. He came to Earth despite everyone's opposition and built such a machine on Earth. Now, this machine is hidden on Earth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668 Global Military Alliance. This is obviously a malicious targeting. Mitchell listened to what Optimus Prime said, and he already understood that the fallen Kong must have been hostile to humans from the beginning, so he did this. Otherwise, there are so many stars in the universe, and there are stars without people everywhere, why must he come to Earth to build such a machine to destroy the sun here? I don't know why he did it, But the magic cube records that to activate the device that can destroy stars, a very special energy source is needed to start it, and that energy source is called the Matrix. When they learned that the fallen Kong wanted to destroy the planet with life, the other 5 elders directly rejected the proposal of the fallen Kong, and the two sides had a battle for the Matrix. The army led by the fallen Kong has a stronger combat power, and the other 5 elders are not its opponents. In the end, they had no choice but to steal the Matrix, and then brought it to Earth and hide it, Optimus Prime explained. In other words, the energy source that can activate the star-destroying device is buried on Earth at this moment, Mitchell asked. Yes, we have found Decepticons all over the world recently. They must be here to find the Matrix, Optimus Prime said affirmatively. What did I say? What did I say? At this moment, Agent Simon, who had been following Scientia very quietly, shouted excitedly. As early as District 7, I said that those Decepticons had come to Earth a long time ago. They have not left Earth in the past few thousand years, but no one believed me at that time. They even said I was dreaming. Now it's good, everything has been confirmed. What I said has always been right. Those Decepticons have been hiding on Earth for thousands of years. They have always been there. Agent Simon was very excited. The feeling of being questioned for a long time and finally getting vindicated now made him very excited. Agent Simon, this matter was indeed a misjudgment by the top management of District 7. Since you have known about this for a long time, I will let you be responsible for the investigation next. How about it? Admiral Mitchell said. Mitchell also knew the important members of the nest base, including Scientia, Lennox, Epps, Agent Simon and Assistant Tom. Because when they fought the Decepticons last time, these people were the core members who participated in the war. The current nest base was also built with these people and the Autobots as the core. Don't worry, General, I will do my best to find the machine and the Matrix as quickly as possible, Agent Simon replied, while giving a very solemn military salute. Then, he left with Tom. He had to collect the information he had investigated before, and then find relevant clues from the information to conduct further investigation. After Agent Simon left, Admiral Mitchell looked at Optimus Prime again and asked him, "Does your Rubik's Cube mention the specific hiding place of the Matrix and the machine?" "No, the history in the Rubik's Cube will only be recorded if it is actively recorded, and the exact coordinates of the Matrix and the machine are not in it." Optimus Prime shook his head and said, "Is there no clue at all?" Mitchell looked at Optimus Prime curiously. "Yes, the elders left a clue inside," Optimus Prime said, and then showed a piece of information. "When the dawn shines on the tip of the dagger, the 3 kings will open the entrance." Just this sentence. Mitchell looked at Optimus Prime, and Lennox and others were also looking at Optimus Prime. Just this sentence, Optimus Prime affirmed. "This matter is of great importance, and we must take it very seriously," Mitchell said, but his words were pure nonsense. The Decepticons' goal is to destroy the sun, which is equivalent to killing all humans. This matter is not big. What else is more important than this? Major General Scientia, I know you are always reluctant to contact us, but this time, I think you will have some ideas in your mind, Mitchell said, and the camera was also aimed at Scientia at this time. At this time, the senior military officials need to know Scientia's attitude, because they all know what kind of ability Scientia has. Without Scientia's participation, they can't let go. We don't know the exact coordinates right now. If we rely on our nest base alone, or even your country alone, I'm afraid we can't do this, Scientia said. He has begun to planning a major event to promote global development. You mean, Mitchell has realized that Scientia's idea may not be simple. I mean, to establish a global war alliance, all countries must participate, gather all the world's military forces, and participate in this war against the Decepticons together. Scientia directly made it clear that what he wanted was the military power of the entire Earth. Global military alliance, Mitchell was shocked. You have to know that this is not a joke. Even in the 2 world wars, we have never really formed a global military alliance. If we do this now, I'm afraid the truth about the Transformers will no longer be hidden. Mitchell and his team have been trying to hide the fact that the Transformers exist for so long. But now Scientia's proposal is clearly to make the truth public. The truth will be revealed sooner or later. We can hide it for a while, but we can't hide it forever, Scientia said. But, Mitchell hesitated. A planet like Cybertron, with such advanced technology, was completely defeated in such a war. Do you think we on Earth can cope with such a powerful army if we don't unite? Scientia asked directly. This, Mitchell couldn't answer for a while. He couldn't give an accurate answer to this question alone. I know this matter is too serious. You don't have to answer it now. Xianxia naturally knew Mitchell's difficulties, so he didn't press him step by step. Go and discuss it with your president. I'll wait for your news at the nest base. After Xianxia finished speaking, he directly closed the communication. Chapter 669, Decepticons' Actions. Is your proposal too exaggerated? After the communication was closed, Lennox immediately stepped forward to ask. It seems exaggerated now, but if the Decepticons really launch a full-scale attack and the entire Earth is facing the crisis of the sun being destroyed, do you still think it is exaggerated? Xianxia asked directly. In the movie, even in the fifth part facing the invasion of Cybertron, only a small number of people and countries on Earth participated. But in that situation, the main focus was on the protagonist's halo, relying on some people to turn the tide at the critical moment. But Xianxia would not do such a thing. He would not let things develop in an undesirable direction and then show someone's personal heroism. He came here to learn how to fight, to learn how to defeat powerful opponents with worse resources. If he just wanted to experience the process of turning the tide, then he could do it now. He only needed to expose his true strength. Without any army or helpers, he could destroy the entire Cybertron and all the Decepticons by himself. This, Lennox didn't know how to answer for a moment. You are soldiers. You only need to consider one thing, that is, how to defeat the invaders, Xianxia said. Give the order, let all the soldiers prepare for battle. As long as Simon can find clues, all of us need to start action immediately. Xianxia gave Lennox the order directly. Yes, sir. Lennox did not hesitate. He was only the deputy commander of the Nest troops. He was just a person who assisted Xianxia in the battle. Since Xianxia himself had an idea and decided to do it, he would try his best to do it according to what Xianxia said. Soon, the entire nest base began to operate. Everyone was actively preparing for war, because everyone knew that a crisis that could threaten the entire Earth was approaching at this moment. At the same time, in the space outside the Earth, a large number of Decepticons were flying quickly. The one who led the way was the leader of the Decepticons, Megatron. However, in the end, they did not land directly on the Earth, but stopped on the moon. A dozen Decepticons gathered in a pit on the back of the moon. Soundwave, what's the situation on Earth? Megatron asked. At this time, Soundwave was not at the scene, but on a satellite outside the Earth. Soundwave could directly invade the communication network of the satellite through his ability, and it could read any information transmitted through this satellite. Of course, except for the part that Optimus Prime specially transmitted for the purpose of concealing himself. Through some special channel encryption methods, Optimus Prime can use a special message that the Decepticons cannot analyze even if it is read to transmit relevant content. Although it seems that Optimus Prime is just talking normally, it is actually a completely different situation. They already know about the Matrix, and they are mobilizing the world's military forces to form a powerful military alliance to fight against us, Soundwave replied. How can these humans be so cautious? Megatron felt very depressed at the moment. If the Earth really formed a military alliance, then with their current strength, it would be unlikely for them to directly fight the Earthlings. The cube is in the hands of humans and Autobots. With the help of the cube, Autobots can directly obtain a lot of information that we don't even know. This situation is very passive for us. Soundwave replied. We must get the cube back as soon as possible, and we must find the Matrix and start the machine. Only in this way can we kill all the humans on the entire Earth. Megatron came back this time with the order of the fallen King Kong. What they want is to completely destroy the Earth. I suggest that we immediately control all the satellites of the Earthlings and completely disrupt the communication network of the other party, so that they can communicate with each other at the fastest speed. At the same time, send a large-scale force and concentrate our strength to forcibly attack the nest base, destroy their headquarters, and bring out the cube. Soundwave gave his suggestion, a very decisive suggestion. There are too many satellites of humans. We can't control them all at all, Starscream said. Just blow them all up, isn't it okay? Megatron will not be merciful. There are too many satellites. They can't control them all at once, so they can just destroy them all at once. Without all the satellites, humans naturally have no way to communicate. This effect is more effective than the last time the Earth network was shut down by a virus invasion, and even the Autobots couldn't restore them. Destroy all the satellites at once? Isn't that equivalent to going to war with all the Earthlings? Starscream asked worriedly. It's already this time, don't you think we are not going to war with all the Earthlings? Megatron asked directly. And his words made Starscream completely speechless. Indeed, the Earth is about to form a global military alliance. They want to directly unite the military forces of all countries to fight against the Decepticons together. This has become a fact. Yes, I will start immediately and attack all artificial satellites, Soundwave replied. Then, an attack on global satellites began. Just when most people on Earth didn't know what was going on, their satellites began to disappear one after another. Commander, we have received the latest intelligence from the General Staff Council. Our satellites in space are under attack. The technician turned around and said to Scientia anxiously. What did you say? The satellite was attacked. Lennox looked at the technician in shock. This is a satellite that humans have spent decades launching into the sky. It's not just our satellites. Satellites around the world seem to be under attack. Nearly 1/3 of them have been destroyed, and the number is still increasing, the technician reported. The other party's goal is to destroy all of our satellites and completely paralyze our network system, so that we can't communicate with each other. Scientia already understood what the real purpose of those Decepticons was. Chapter 670 Megatron's Goal. Why destroy global satellites? Can't we destroy our network by dropping viruses like before? Lennox looked at Scientia in confusion. In order to deal with such a situation, haven't we been trying to deal with it for more than half a year? Scientia asked back. This, Lennox didn't know how to answer for a while. Indeed, they have been preparing for the situation like that recently, and even the Autobots have joined in and provided relevant technologies to strengthen communications. If the Decepticons use such virus technology again, they may be able to destroy all the communication equipment in a certain area, but they will never be able to block the global network. Moreover, when new communication equipment is delivered, they can immediately get in touch with the outside world. In the movie, they did this in the second part of Transformers. At that time, the Decepticons destroyed their communications in the desert area, but the helicopters that came to support them brought new communication equipment, and they could immediately contact the outside world. Agent Simon made the most brilliant achievement of his life at that time. By contacting the aircraft carrier formation, he called an electromagnetic gun and killed Hercules with one shot. Now, the Decepticons obviously don't even want to see such a situation. They want to completely cut off the communication network on Earth. Such an approach is also disadvantageous to them, the Decepticons. Optimus Prime began to transform, and then expressed his opinion. Indeed, if the global satellites are still there, they can also use these satellites to achieve mutual communication between them, but if the global satellites are destroyed, the linear propagation of waves will also cause them to be unable to achieve unified coordination on Earth. Scientia also agreed with Optimus Prime's statement. Even if they are Transformers, their technology cannot achieve global barrier-free communication within a planet without relying on any equipment. If they have done this, it can only mean that they are risking everything and they are planning to implement some very important plan. Optimus Prime knows Megatron. That guy is not a brainless guy. He is an insidious and powerful leader. Optimus Prime, if you were Megatron, what would you want to do most now? Scientia thought and asked Optimus Prime. Find the Rubik's Cube. Optimus Prime thought for a moment and gave a direct answer. Yes, that's right, Scientia nodded. Although the intelligence we got earlier said that the Decepticons have been trying to find the Matrix on Earth, in fact, the Matrix is just the key to creating new energy, and now we have a ready-made energy source in our hands, Scientia said. He had realized what the real goal of the Decepticons was. Technician, contact the Pentagon immediately and tell them that the Decepticons' target is our nest base. Scientia immediately turned to look at the technician, wanting him to contact the Pentagon. Commander, our communication network has been completely interrupted, and we have lost the way to contact the Pentagon, the technician answered helplessly. Try to use civilian satellites, anything is fine, as long as we can contact the Pentagon, Scientia said. Yes, we will start trying immediately. At the same time as the technician answered, everyone else around him immediately started to operate. However, they tried one by one. But in the end they couldn't find a suitable communication line at all. Even the last civilian network they found with great difficulty. Just as it was connected, the satellite signal was interrupted. It seems that those Decepticons are moving very quickly. They are already a little impatient. Optimus Prime's eyes kept changing. He already knew what they would face next. Lennox used the shortwave communicator immediately to get the entire base ready for battle. At the same time, spread our situation to the outside world and request more support. The satellite has been destroyed, so the only thing they can use now is the shortwave platform for communication. However, the efficiency of this communication method will be very low. It is impossible for them to contact the Pentagon from here, and there is no way to communicate with the other party directly. Now they can only send out relevant signals and directly request support. Yes, everyone, start the action immediately, Lennox agreed, and then immediately began to command the entire base to start operating. Scientia, the key now is the Rubik's Cube underground, Optimus Prime reminded. Although everything they are doing now is right, Optimus Prime feels that their base cannot withstand the attack of the Decepticons this time. So, he thought of the Rubik's Cube at the first time. The research on the dissolution of the Rubik's Cube is still in the experimental stage. It will take us some time to complete the technology to destroy the Rubik's Cube, Scientia replied. If it really doesn't work, I'm willing to put it in my chest. While Optimus Prime was speaking, he opened the energy device on his chest and exposed its energy color. No, absolutely not, Scientia refused. You are the leader of the Autobots, and you are also our best ally. I will never allow you to make such a sacrifice, Scientia said decisively. At this moment, everyone present in the base looked at Optimus Prime with the same firm eyes. They are comrades in arms. They can fight together to protect the Earth, but they don't want to see their brothers who have been through life and death together sacrifice themselves to protect the Earth. But this is our best solution, Optimus Prime said. Bullshit. Sacrificing comrades in arms is called the best solution, Scientia asked angrily. Besides, do you think that the problem will be solved if you destroy the Rubik's Cube? Scientia interrupted Optimus Prime. The Decepticons' goal is to destroy the Earth. Whether they get the Rubik's Cube or not, they will continue to attack the Earth. By then, we won't have you. We will lose a powerful force, and it will be more difficult for us to deal with the Decepticons. Your so-called sacrificing yourself to protect more people is simply nonsense. Scientia's somewhat irritable way of speaking made Optimus Prime very grateful. He knew that Scientia was mainly considering himself. Although the Decepticons will still attack the Earth, without the Rubik's Cube, the Decepticons will temporarily lose their target, and they will not attack here directly. As for the subsequent war, the Earth will have more time to mobilize more troops to participate in the war, and it will naturally be more secure. This plan is feasible. Chapter 671, Defense of the Nest Base. Commander, radar scans show that a large number of meteorites are falling towards this side. The technician looked at the display on the base radar and reported quickly. That's not a meteorite, it should be the Decepticons coming, Scientia said. Everyone, immediately get into combat positions, take up your weapons, and treat these guys well. While Epps was speaking, he led the soldiers in the base and ran out. All missile systems enter the launch program. If there is no satellite positioning, use radar to lock, and give priority to protecting the safety of the radar. Scientia looked at the technicians, and those technicians immediately spread Scientia's ideas to the outside world. What they are facing now is an unprecedented war. A large number of Decepticons are falling from the sky, coming to completely destroy their base and snatch the Rubik's Cube under the base. The missile launch program is in place, the missile targeting system is being adjusted. Because the internal system cannot be changed in large quantities, the number of missiles that can be used is only 10. The technician quickly reported the situation. It doesn't matter. Just fire these 10 missiles first, and then change the launch systems of other missiles. Scientia also knew that the built-in systems of these missiles were based on satellite positioning. It was really difficult to change them to rely on radar to lock. But at this point, they had no choice. Yes, the missile launch program started, and began to lock the target, the technician answered. In the next 10 seconds, 10 missiles flew out of the underground launch site in the base at the same time and shot into the sky. At the same time, the missile launcher had also left the base. There were only 3 missile launchers in the base, and there were only 3 missiles in total. But because the missile launcher can be sent directly by visual, it can also be used to attack targets that fall from the sky. Autobots, fight together with the soldiers. Optimus Prime gave the order, and all the Autobots took action at this moment, walking out of the base one after another, and forming a defensive formation with the soldiers distributed at various key nodes of the base. Although they had only trained their cooperation with each other for a few months, But before they joined this nest base, they had already been soldiers who had fought for many years, so they were able to hone their skills very quickly. Just as the Autobots entered the position, 10 missiles were fired from the ground at the same time and flew into the air. In the sky, dozens of spheres burning with flames were falling rapidly. They couldn't see clearly what kind of Decepticons were in these spheres, but they were sure that there was a Decepticon in each sphere. Boom boom boom. 10 consecutive explosions produced loud noises from the sky, and countless fragments were blown away. Every soldier hid in the bunker as much as possible, and the Autobots also protected their heads with their hands to prevent being hit by these scattered fragments. However, the fragments can be blocked, but the Decepticons cannot resist. Boom boom boom. A large number of fireballs fell, and huge deep pits were blown out inside and outside the base in an instant. This violent collision and the explosion after the collision made the entire base a mess in an instant. Some people who were unlucky were killed by the explosion the moment the Decepticons landed. And even one of the 3 missile launchers was smashed. Fire, fire, everyone, fire, lock on to the nearest Decepticon, and launch a siege, Lennox was commanding, and Epps was also commanding the soldiers on the other side of the base. All the soldiers in the entire nest base were fighting bloody battles. This war between humans and Decepticons on Earth was finally staged here. Those Decepticons that fell from the sky began to transform the moment they landed on the ground. Although they fell in the form of spheres, most of them actually already had simulated car models or mechanical bodies, so they could directly transform into the appearance of adapting to the combat methods on Earth. Therefore, after they landed on the ground, they immediately began to attack the nest base. Various missiles, shells and bullets continued to pour out, and the entire base was covered by the sound of gunfire in just a few seconds. The number of Autobots was far less than that of these Decepticons. But the Autobots are now gathering together with the soldiers of the nest base, and the weapons in these soldiers' hands are originally designed to target the Decepticons. They have also carried out many siege battles against the Decepticons, so these soldiers cooperated with the Autobots and exerted a strong fighting power. Commander, there are too many Decepticons. I'm afraid we can't hold on for too long. Lennox's communication came and was transmitted to Cheyenne-Shi's headset. It's come to this point. We have to stop them even if we can't stop them, Cheyenne-Shi replied, and he also picked up his weapon at this time. All technicians, continue to communicate with the outside world, and others will join me and join the battle, Cheyenne-Shi said, and then he took the lead and rushed out. They were guarding the door of the building of the base, not going out to the open space outside the base. The core of the entire base is this building, because the Rubik's Cube's research room is also under this building. But the main direction of the Decepticons' attack is also this building. Commander, it's too dangerous for you to guard there. Lennox saw that Cheyenne-Shi actually led the team to block the door in person, and he immediately became anxious. Without any hesitation, he led his soldiers to rush over here. However, they originally relied on fortifications to establish their positions, and now charging meant rushing out of the fortifications. In this situation, this is a very dangerous thing. Lennox, leave me alone, I can't die, Cheyenne-Shi shouted immediately. And the fact is that he can't die. If the Decepticons really kill him, it means that the end of the Decepticons has come. Because once Cheyenne-Shi is fatally injured, it means that his cover has lost its effect. Since there is no way to experience the rest as an ordinary person, he will naturally use his true strength to solve everything. But, this is an order, Cheyenne-Shi said these 4 words directly as a commander. Hearing this, Lennox, although he was still worried about Cheyenne-Shi, did not rush out again. Soldiers take obeying orders as their duty. Now that he is Cheyenne-Shi's subordinate, he must obey Cheyenne-Shi's orders. Fight, use all your firepower to attack those Decepticons who are trying to rush in, Cheyenne-Shi shouted to the soldiers around him. Seeing that their superiors were fearless, the soldiers naturally fought desperately. Chapter 672, Turning a Fixed Target into a Live Target. Countless flames were spitting out, and bullets were pouring out like raindrops. If it was on a normal day, if it was facing ordinary humans, such firepower would be enough to make anyone who tried to attack feel scalp numb. But today's situation is different, because the attackers are not people, but a group of Decepticons, and a large number of them. The first few Decepticons who rushed in still couldn't break in under the firepower poured by Cheyenne-Shi and his men. After all, the nest base is equipped with the best weapons, which are specially used to deal with Decepticons. Ordinary Decepticons are also difficult to resist when facing such firepower. But after the first two Decepticons were killed by firepower, the Decepticons behind began to adjust their strategies. Two of the Decepticons directly transformed into tanks and immediately fired two shells into the base, blowing away several soldiers holding rocket launchers blocking the main entrance. Then, a huge Decepticon holding a huge shield rushed out. He walked in the front, covering a large group of Decepticons behind him as they rushed into the building. Optimus Prime, Scientia turned around and wanted to call Optimus Prime to launch the attack. However, when Scientia wanted to find Optimus Prime, he found that he was no longer there. Not good. Scientia immediately understood that Optimus Prime must have gone to the laboratory below. Jazz, you come to lead here? Scientia looked at Jazz not far away. Yes, Jazz also understood what Scientia meant and agreed immediately. Bumblebee, follow me. Scientia walked towards the center of the building, which was under the Autobot garage. Bumblebee changed into the appearance of a car, and Scientia jumped into the car in one step. Bumblebee did not hesitate at all, and rushed directly into the underground passage and drove towards the laboratory on the lower level of the base. Because Optimus Prime and other Autobots would often enter this underground laboratory to use the Rubik's Cube on weekdays, the entrance of the laboratory was very large, enough to accommodate 3 or 4 Transformers entering side by side. Bumblebee rushed in directly at this moment, and naturally there was no obstruction. When they drove a few hundred meters and entered the research room directly, Optimus Prime was picking up the Rubik's Cube. Optimus Prime, don't do anything stupid, Scientia started shouting loudly before he got out of the car. Bumblebee didn't wait for Scientia to open the car door, and he transformed on the spot, threw Scientia out, and then caught it steadily in his hand. Don't worry, I'm not going to commit suicide. Optimus Prime looked at Scientia and Bumblebee, who rushed over in a hurry, and naturally knew what the two were thinking, and immediately said something to reassure them. What are you doing? Scientia also noticed that Optimus Prime was not going to put the Rubik's Cube into the energy device on his chest at this moment, and he was also much more relaxed. Leaving the Rubik's Cube here is equivalent to giving them a fixed target, and all of them will rush in here, so, you can't just leave it in one place, you have to make it move. After Optimus Prime finished speaking, he handed the shrunken Rubik's Cube to Scientia. You mean, rush out with the Rubik's Cube? Scientia was a smart man. He knew the situation as soon as Optimus Prime said this. Yes, let's rush out of the base with the Rubik's Cube. And then the whole team will move together, even if the Decepticons want to siege us. It's not so easy to surround us all at once on such a vast ground, Optimus Prime said. It's a good idea, but in this way, the person carrying the Rubik's Cube will be in danger. Scientia was naturally not afraid, but the problem now was that no matter who of Optimus Prime and Bumblebee would be the carrier, it would be the one that would bear the most attacks. Of course, Optimus Prime was about to say that he would do it, but before he could finish his words, Bumblebee had already begun to transform and took Scientia, who was holding the Rubik's Cube, back into his car. He immediately turned the car around and rushed out of the laboratory without paying attention to what Optimus Prime was going to say. Bumblebee, this is too dangerous, let me do it. Optimus Prime did not hesitate and quickly transformed into a car and chased after him. But Bumblebee had already made up his mind, so he didn't care about what Optimus Prime shouted behind him. He just rushed forward. You are really a fearless person. Scientia was sitting in the car at this time, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with Bumblebee's behavior at this moment. Let me accompany you to charge. Are you afraid? Bumblebee finally didn't need to speak on the radio at this time, but used his own voice. To tell you the truth, there is no one in this world who can kill me, Scientia said. He is a being with a sacred body, and the Decepticons are not worth mentioning in front of him. Don't worry, no one can hurt you unless I die. When Bumblebee said this, they had already rushed out of the underground laboratory. At this moment, the Decepticons had already broken into the building of the base. Jazz and others led the soldiers and Autobots in the nest base and were still resisting tenaciously. In fact, during the time when Scientia entered the underground, 2 Autobots had been attacked and seriously injured. It is impossible to avoid death in battle. Even the Autobots died one after another in the original movie. By the 4th movie, only Bumblebee and Optimus Prime were left of the original 5 Autobots. This is enough to show the cruelty of war. Jazz? Is Jazz injured? Scientia looked at Jazz lying on the ground in the base and immediately asked with concern. He was just hit by a shell. He won't die for the time being, Jazz answered, but his voice sounded a little weak. You have to hold on for me. What I need most is a commander. Xianxia said, but he didn't have time to say. During the time he was talking to Jazz, Bumblebee had already rushed out of the base with him. Behind Bumblebee, Optimus Prime followed closely. They had to break through all the Decepticons' blockade, rush out of the base and start moving continuously at high speed. Only in this way can they completely break the Decepticon siege of the Nest base. All Autobots, cover Bumblebee. Optimus Prime had just come out of the underground laboratory when he immediately sent a message to all the Autobots. For a moment, all the Autobots who could still move were trying their best to get closer to Bumblebee. Chapter 673 Breaking Out of the Encirclement. Optimus Prime turned over, and a huge energy axe appeared in his hand. He chopped down the shield-like Decepticon blocking the exit of the building with a fierce axe. This axe instantly knocked the Decepticon to the ground, and the shield in his hand was directly broken into two halves. Then Optimus Prime summoned an energy sword again, and instantly pierced the heart of the Decepticon. The Decepticon blocking the door was solved, and Bumblebee successfully rushed out of the base and entered the open space outside. At this moment, the open space was covered with various craters, various steel wreckage and soldiers' bodies. The cruelty of this war has exceeded any previous one. When Xianxia entered the Institute, the soldiers outside were trying their best to defend the base, and the Decepticons were trying to invade the base to grab the magic cube. Therefore, the war has just begun, but the number of casualties on both sides has reached an astonishing 1/3. If it were on a regular battlefield, such heavy casualties would have caused one side to be defeated and flee. But now they are fighting a war that concerns the survival of their race. The Decepticons think that they want to take back the Rubik's Cube, become the dominant group in the universe again, and recreate the glory of Cybertron. The humans on Earth are defending their living space and protecting the source of their life, the sun in the sky. Therefore, neither side is timid at all. When fighting, they will fight with all their strength and rush forward regardless of everything. At this moment, Bumblebee rushed out of the base, and the energy wave of the Rubik's Cube was observed by all the Decepticons at this moment. Everyone, grab the Rubik's Cube. Megatron's voice fell from the sky. The leader of the Decepticons did not appear on the battlefield until this moment. He fell directly from the sky and attacked a tank in front of him the moment he landed. A shell fell, and the tank instantly turned into pieces, and naturally no one in the tank was spared. It's Megatron, everyone concentrate firepower, stop him. Xianxia's order came out, and everyone in the entire military base immediately began to adjust the firepower of the attack to attack the Decepticon leader. The Decepticons concentrated all their forces to attack Bumblebee, trying to snatch the Rubik's Cube in Bumblebee's car. The humans concentrated all their firepower to stop Megatron from approaching Bumblebee. The two sides went from fighting each other head-on to a tug-of-war. Everyone's target was no longer each other, but the yellow Van Row at the core of the battlefield. Boom! Shells kept pouring down, and explosions kept blasting around Bumblebee. Bumblebee was rushing forward desperately. Facing those visible shells, he directly dodged, and facing those invisible ones, he just let them fall. If he really hit, it was just Bumblebee's bad luck. If he didn't hit, he would just keep moving forward. Commander, your current situation is too dangerous, you must evade immediately. Lennox saw Xianxia sitting in the car and immediately warned him. This nest base was built around Xianxia. If Xianxia died here, their organization would be finished. You are fighting for the Earth. Your goal is to stop the Decepticons' conspiracy. Xianxia's voice was transmitted to every soldier in the nest base through the shortwave channel. Remember, don't worry too much. As long as you can stop the Decepticons' conspiracy, you can accept any price. Xianxia's words immediately boosted the morale of the soldiers in the base. They knew that this battle was to protect the Earth. But now that they heard that their commanders put themselves in the most dangerous place and fought desperately without hesitation, the soldiers, had no reason to be timid. So, even if they died, even if all the people in the base died, it didn't matter. So, a more crazy battle began. Those soldiers were all fearless. They rushed directly to the feet of the Decepticons and attacked the Decepticons' vital points from bottom to top. Or they directly stabbed the fixed-point blasting weapons into the Decepticons' feet and detonated them. Although this approach caused the number of casualties of soldiers to soar sharply. But at the same time, the killing efficiency of Decepticons was also greatly improved. The Decepticons, who originally relied on powerful firepower to suppress the entire nest base, had completely disappeared at this time. This war became extremely tragic at this moment. Major General Xianxia, We are here. Suddenly, a somewhat crazy voice appeared in the shortwave channel. Then, Qianxia saw a convoy rushing quickly outside the base through the window of the speeding Bumblebee. At the front of the convoy was a silver sports car, which was the horizontal cannon that Qianxia had sent out to assist Agent Simon in investigating the intelligence of the Matrix. Therefore, this convoy was led by Agent Simon and was a convoy of the intelligence organization of the Nest troops. This guy, Qianxia looked at this scene. Although he was complaining, he was also very moved. At least Simon was still very righteous. Even though he knew that the result of coming back this time might be death, he still led his team back without hesitation. You know, the team brought back by Agent Simon only has a few dozen people in total. For this battle involving thousands of people in the Nest base, it is not very useful at all. The return of these few dozen people is basically like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, which is of no use at all. Don't get close to the main battlefield, prepare to meet us on the periphery, Qianxia said, and Bumblebee had already changed his original snake-skinned movements and started to rush towards the location of the team. It is not a solution to keep moving quickly in the base. It may be better to rush out of the base. Yes, we will open the way for you, Simon answered, and the moment he answered, the horizontal cannon turned around on the spot, from rushing inside to rushing outside. The whole team began to change direction at this time. The agents in the car took out their weapons, stuck their heads out of the windows, or stood up directly from the skylight and attacked the Decepticons around them. The firepower of their team is far behind that of the entire Nest base. But they came so suddenly that the Decepticons were not able to react in time. This round of attack drove away several Decepticons that were blocking the road in front of them, and Bumblebee took advantage of this opportunity to rush out. Chapter 674 Interception. Bumblebee broke out of the encirclement under such circumstances. Now, under the cover of Sidewinder and the agent convoy led by Simon, they were heading out of the base quickly. No, we must not let them escape again. Megatron had experienced the experience of the cube being sent away by him once, and he would never allow himself to fail again this time. So, Megatron left Optimus Prime behind, and he transformed into a Cybertron flying tank and chased after them. Starscream and 3 Decepticons who transformed into helicopters also started the pursuit with Megatron. The firepower of the Decepticons is always so strong, and now this team composed of dozens of Decepticons has a terrifyingly strong firepower configuration. Quick, Autobots, catch up and stop those Decepticons. After Optimus Prime finished speaking, he also changed into car form and chased after them. The other Autobots also got rid of their opponents and wanted to catch up to help. But the Autobots reacted, but the Decepticons would not let them get their wish. As soon as the Autobots started to move, the Decepticons immediately entangled them. If the Autobots forced their way through the defense line in the form of cars, they would also transform into various vehicles to chase them out. Gradually, the entire base began to become chaotic. Above the convoy of Bumblebee and Sidewinder that rushed out of the base first, there was a Cybertron flying tank, an F-22, and 3 helicopters of different models. Behind these convoys and Decepticons were Optimus Prime and Chelsea in motorcycle form, who followed them at the first time. At the back was a large group of chaotic vehicles of various forms. While the Autobots and Decepticons were chasing each other, they were still constantly attacking each other. They fought all the way forward, and various shells, flames, and debris were constantly flying. Lennox, Epps found Lennox. The deputy commanders of the 2 Nest bases finally met again at this moment. Organize people immediately, and we will chase them out too. Lennox knew very well how difficult the situation of the Skybreaker and the Autobots was now. They had to catch up to help. But the battle at the base, Epps looked around while speaking. There were still many Decepticons fighting with their soldiers here. You stay and command the battle here. If you can find it thoroughly, come with me to support the commander immediately. Lennox did not hesitate at all. He walked directly to a military jeep next to him. Soon, many military vehicles drove out of the base. A large team was quickly formed in this chaotic state. Be careful, Epps knew that they had no extra choices in this situation. They could only remind their old brothers to take care of themselves. Got it, Lennox replied. If reinforcements arrive, guide them to find us immediately. After Lennox said this, the car drove out directly. This last convoy that could be assembled in the Nest base also began to track the team in front and went to support Qianxia and Bumblebee. At this moment, Bumblebee and Sidewinder, who were at the front, were being bombarded. Boy, Do you think you can survive if you rush out of the base? Don't be delusional. Megatron landed directly in front of Bumblebee, and a fist fell hard on the ground, instantly smashing a big hole in the ground. The body of Bumblebee was directly thrown out by the raised oil in the big hole, and the whole body was constantly rolling. In this form, Bumblebee could no longer maintain the original model. He could only quickly transform and avoid subsequent damage in the form of a robot. At the moment when Bumblebee transformed, Skysha appeared from inside the car to outside the car. Almost at the moment when Skysha appeared, Megatron raised one hand and grabbed Skysha. Megatron's goal was to get the Rubik's Cube. As for whether Skysha would be crushed to death in the process, he didn't care. In fact, if Skysha could really be killed, he would be very happy. "Hey, Megatron, try this," Skysha shouted, and threw a small grenade out with a flick of his hand. Megatron simply disdained such a grenade after seeing it, because the grenade developed at the human level, with such a small amount, could not hurt him. Therefore, Megatron had no intention of dodging. He still grabbed Skyansha and the Rubik's Cube directly. The next moment, the grenade exploded directly. The gunpowder explosion that was expected did not occur, but a strong flash of light actually appeared. That's right, this grenade is not a bomb, but a flash bomb. Although Transformers can scan targets through radar and other things, they actually observe things through their eyes, that is, flash bombs can also have an effect on them. At this moment, this strong flash bomb exploded, and the light instantly made Megatron lose all the targets in front of him. The stimulation of the strong light made him subconsciously close his eyes, and his body movements were out of control. The hand that was originally grabbing Skyansha turned into a direct slap, slapping Skyansha hard. With Skyansha's sacred body, such a slap naturally could not kill him. But now he is participating in various events in the Transformers world as a human being, and even his physical fitness is completely set by the big clock based on the physical fitness of ordinary humans. Therefore, this slap directly slapped Skyansha away, and he landed heavily on the sand more than 10 meters away. The strong impact even made his back feel severe pain, and the Rubik's Cube in his arms was also thrown out and landed on the sand farther away. "The Rubik's Cube is mine." When Starscream saw the Rubik's Cube fall to the ground, he immediately fell from the sky and wanted to pick it up. But at this critical moment, Sideswipe had already deformed, and he swung his hand violently, and a sharp triangular spike was thrown out directly, just piercing Starscream's hand that wanted to take the Rubik's Cube. Starscream's hand was deflected, and even the spike directly pierced into the back of his hand, causing Starscream to wail in pain. Bumblebee had already landed at this moment, and he didn't care about Megatron beside him. He raised his hand and fired a cannonball, attacking Starscream directly. At any time, protecting the Rubik's Cube is the most important thing. Both Sideswipe and Bumblebee realized this at this moment. The shells fell, and Red Spider's body was blown away. At the same time, a whip kick appeared at Bumblebee's waist, and Bumblebee was kicked dozens of meters away by this fierce kick. Chapter 675, Hang Pao Sacrifice. The moment Bumblebee's body landed on the ground, many parts of his body were damaged, and Bumblebee's entire body was almost paralyzed. "Bumblebee, lie down there and wait for rescue." Skyansha quickly turned over and looked at the seriously injured Bumblebee, and he directly reminded him. At the same time, he quickly ran towards the Rubik's Cube. He wanted to take the Rubik's Cube away from here as soon as possible. "Boy, leave the Rubik's Cube for me." Megatron was just disturbed by the flash bomb and failed to catch Skyansha directly. Now that he has reacted, he first solved the problem of Bumblebee, who is in the way. Now he will not let Skyansha escape again. "You want to take the Rubik's Cube?" "Wishful thinking," Skyansha said, and he quickly walked towards the Rubik's Cube. Looking for death, Megatron looked at Skyansha's actions and immediately started to act. He did not chase and take the Cosmic Cube like before, because Megatron had decided to solve Skyansha first. At this moment, he raised his right hand directly, and his arm directly changed into the barrel of a cannon, and a shell immediately whizzed out. Skyansha was facing away from Megatron. He was about to pick up the Rubik's Cube and didn't notice Megatron's actions at all. In other words, he didn't know that Megatron was aiming the cannon at him. When he heard the cannon, it was too late for him to dodge. "I was careless." Skyansha felt helpless. He didn't expect that his experience would end here. But the next moment, a huge figure appeared behind him, blocking Skyansha and Megatron. The cannonball landed on the figure, and the moment the explosion sounded, the huge figure was directly blown into several pieces. "No, Xianxia turned around suddenly and saw the person in front of him. Sideways, Xianxia shouted loudly, but everything was too late. In order to save Xianxia, Sideways used his body to forcibly resist Megatron's cannonballs. Although his body might be small compared to Xianxia, it was too big compared to Megatron. This cannonball hit the vital part of his body. Sideways didn't even have a chance to breathe, and his life characteristics had completely disappeared. Hurry, protect Xianxia, protect the cube. At this moment, Optimus Prime arrived. He changed directly into a robot state and knocked over Megatron, who was aiming for the second shot. After that, the two of them wrestled directly with each other. The other Autobots who came later also immediately intertwined with the other Decepticons. Xianxia, come here quickly. Agent Simon came directly to Xianxia and pulled him away. Tom and all the people in the entire intelligence team were now surrounding Xianxia, protecting Xianxia and the cube in his arms. Xianxia ran while turning his head to look at the sideways cannon, who had fallen to the ground and could not move. Big Clock, move the body of sideways cannon away, and I will personally revive it afterwards, Xianxia contacted Big Clock. As a commander, he needs to stay rational and sober at all times. But as a person, he must never be indifferent to those who risk their lives to protect him. Xianxia wants to experience it as an ordinary person, but he is not incapable of saving people. So, he has to revive Sideways Cannon. Got it, the sound of the big clock came, and then the body of the horizontal gun was directly transported away without anyone noticing. The big clock used the micro-wormhole to transport it directly to the dark matter plane space of Xianxia, and then the big clock quickly used Super God technology to repair its damaged body and restore it to its original appearance. However, the big clock did not directly restart the operation program of the horizontal gun, and the horizontal gun was still lifeless at this time. Because Xianxia said that he would personally revive the horizontal gun, so the last step of restoring his life would definitely be given to Xianxia. In the real world, Xianxia had recovered at this time. He looked at the soldiers around him who were protecting him and the Autobots who were fighting bloody battles around him. Chelsea, Xianxia turned his head and shouted loudly at the Autobot Chelsea. I'm here. Chelsea quickly left the battle and came to Xianxia's side. Motorcycle form, Xianxia said simply and directly. Yes, Chelsea answered, while quickly transforming into a pink motorcycle. Xianxia jumped onto the motorcycle and placed the magic cube directly at the rear of the motorcycle. Chelsea immediately extended 4 hooks and fixed the entire Rubik's Cube from 4 directions to ensure that it would never fall off during driving. Xianxia directly turned the throttle, and the motorcycle engine kept humming at this moment. The moment the clutch was released, the motorcycle immediately shot out, like a bullet, shuttling across the desert. Only when the Rubik's Cube kept moving, the attention of the Decepticons would continue to be distracted. Even though Xianxia had just seen Sidewinder being blown to death in order to save him, he now had to continue to complete this task. All Decepticons, stop that kid. Megatron kicked Optimus Prime away and gave orders to all the Decepticons. Xianxia, too many people have sacrificed, why not do what I said at the beginning? Optimus Prime also sent a message to Xianxia at this time. If I let you destroy this Rubik's Cube by suicide now, it would really be a waste of Sidewinder and his men's lives, Xianxia said. But if we continue like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to protect the cube. Optimus Prime knew that the gap between their forces and the Decepticons in this battle was too big. Chelsea, Optimus Prime said we can't protect the cube. What do you think? Xianxia lowered his head and asked the motorcycle he was riding. If you want to catch me, these Decepticons are not enough. As Chelsea spoke, she suddenly stepped on the accelerator and her speed increased again. At this moment, the speed of the motorcycle had already soared to a level that the pointer of the speed dial could not mark. The wheels kept spinning, and the yellow sand was rolled up, leaving a straight long line directly on the desert. The Decepticons were chasing behind, but no matter how they accelerated, they couldn't catch up. If they were on a regular road, or in a race, the speed of the motorcycle might not be as fast as a sports car. But this was in the desert, and they were in a state of battle. There were no top-level racing cars among the Decepticons, so how could they compete with Chelsea in speed? Even if a car could catch up with her at full speed, Chelsea would be left behind immediately if she turned in an instant. After all, a motorcycle can turn much more conveniently and quickly than a car. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.